Chapter 721, Walking Meat Tree. The corpse of the ancient desolate beast, astral wind-flying heavenly boar, was right in front of them. Although He Lulan and Fang Yuan were moved, they did not close in on it. The two looked up towards the sky at the same time. They saw that high in the air, the eighth-star hall was shaking slightly. Loud explosions and the growls of fierce beasts could be heard from within the hall. With a loud bang, the star hall shook intensely, a pillar of fire burst up from the roof of the star hall, creating a huge hole on it. The star hall was not made of ordinary material, it was formed from the phenomenon in the grotto heaven. At the area of the roof that was broken, starlight was emitting from it, as the hole continued to spread outwards. A pillar of smoke flew up outwards into the sky. What an intense battle! He Lulan sighed. Fight, fight, the more intense the better it is. Fang Yuan muttered. In the eighth star hall, it was a mess, the two sides were fiercely engaged in combat. A heavily injured desolate beast-flamed tiger growled loudly, shooting out a fireball from its mouth. The fireball shot a huge tree, while it was in the air, the flame tiger moved its claws and followed behind the fireball, attacking towards the huge tree. The huge tree moved its huge branches. Its branches were very peculiar, they were like soft and thick octopus tentacles. With a loud thud, a tentacle-like branch destroyed a fireball. With another whipping noise, a branch swung over, causing the flame tiger who was behind the fireball to be sent flying. The flame tiger cried out in pain, it flew for up to 100 steps and crashed onto the ground. With a burst of bright light, it returned to a human form, it was immortal Monkey King Shirley. Shirley spat out 3 teeth, his expression was excited and crazed. What a great walking meat tree, as expected of something of legend, this ancient desolate plant is truly incredible. Star Lord Xiang who was beside him continued to unleash starlight attacks while transmitting helplessly when he heard Shirley's words, Lord Immortal Monkey King, the enemy is very powerful, stop playing with it and use your Earth Path main battle strength. Shirley was not an ignorant person, he did not hesitate as he said, alright, I have already used my transformation path battle strength to kill an astral wind flying heavenly boar, I am satisfied. Next, I will use my true earth path cultivation and destroy this energetic walking meat tree. Star Lord Xiang was overjoyed when he heard this, immortal Monkey King Shirley was finally going to use his true strength. But at the next moment, Shirley sat down on a rock in the hall, healing himself, Star Lord Xiang, hold on for now, when I remove the fire path Dao marks on my body, I will use my earth path methods. Star Lord Xiang heard this and almost scolded him in anger. But he did not do so, Shirley's request was reasonable, with fire path Dao marks on him, it would interfere with and weaken the effects of his earth path Gu worms. Star Lord Xiang could only hold in his anger and agree, flying forward and facing off against the walking meat tree. Although Star Lord Xiang was heavily injured by Song Zixing and his foundation was damaged, he still had ingenious methods left. Up Todat. DFR. M no/V/E/LB, I, N.CO/M. Beams of starlight shot out like grand pillars, towards the walking meat tree. The walking meat tree moved 3 branches to retaliate. Star Lord Xiang's body suddenly shuddered, as 5 starlight clones split from his main body and together, they took up 6 positions, unleashing different star path killer moves and attacking the walking meat tree. The walking meat tree was hit several times, it flew into a rage and moved more than 10 branches to fight back. Crack crack crack. Star Lord Xiang's starlight clones were all smashed, Star Lord Xiang evaded the branches coming from left and right, he quickly got into a disadvantage. Facing off against the walking meat tree directly, he finally felt immense pressure. Bang! With a loud noise, Star Lord Xiang could not defend himself and was sent flying. Along the way, he crashed through a thick pillar, but his momentum was not lost, as he directly flew out of the Star Hall. Seeing that Star Lord Wanxiang was gone, the walking meat tree moved its branches and assaulted Shirley, who was sitting down. Useless. Shirley opened his eyes, the battle intent in his golden pupils were surging. He shouted in anger as he stood up, attacking the walking meat tree. Star Lord Wanxiang flew a long way out of the Star Hall before stabilizing his body. He wiped the blood on his lips, looking at the 8th Star Hall. He showed a cold smile as his scheme worked. He sent himself flying on purpose, this way, he could force Shirley to fight. I exposed the secret of this starry sky grotto heaven to you, regardless of the consequences, yet you do not even want to fight? Guh. Suddenly, Star Lord Wanxiang spit out a mouthful of blood. An intense pain assaulted him. He sucked in a breath of cold air, shock shining in his eyes. When this walking meat tree hits me, it directly etches the Tao marks of strength path into my body, causing my internal organs to suffer a huge blow. After realizing this, Star Lord Wanxiang did not want to rush up foolishly to fight the walking meat tree. I'll let Shirley fight, he is a battle maniac anyway. Under the pressure of the walking meat tree, he would need to use his full strength. I have already paid such a huge price, I should heal the injuries on my body first. Immediately after, Star Lord Wanxiang summoned his Gu worms, which formed a star cloud bed. He sat on the bed as he floated in the air, healing his injuries. After a while, he opened his eyes, the injuries on him had healed. He first took a look at the 8th Star Hall, before looking down at the huge corpse of the ancient desolate beast, astral wind flying heavenly boar. He then looked at the other areas of the battlefield, seeing the other desolate beast corpses. He hesitated, although he wanted to take all of the corpses first, considering Shirley's feelings, he had to dispel this thought. Forget it, I do not need to give Shirley an excuse later to make things difficult. In any case, there is no one else in this grotto heaven, should battle now and deal with the current situation. Thinking of this, Star Lord Wanxiang retrieved the star cloud bed Gu and flew away, entering the 8th Star Hall after traveling a short distance. In the thick lush forest, He Lulan and Fang Yuan, who had concealed their auras, sighed in relief. Fang Yuan, the Gu worms that you left behind successfully deceived the enemy. He Lulan said excitedly. My method can only create a hologram, it cannot deceive a proper investigation. Quick, let's not talk about this anymore, we should make this part of our earnings first. Fang Yuan did not want to indulge in self-praise, he moved ahead and sneaked towards the corpse of the astral wind flying heavenly boar. The two quickly got to the side of the astral wind flying heavenly boar corpse. The astral wind flying heavenly boar corpse was tall like a small hill, it cast a huge shadow on the ground. Fang Yuan and He Lulan purposely detoured, hiding under the shadow, waiting for the appropriate moment to strike. They first inspected the wild Gu on the astral wind flying heavenly boar's body. There were many wild Gu originally, but after the battle with Shirley, more than half were destroyed. After the flying boar died, much of the remaining half escaped, very few were left. After Fang Yuan completed his search, he started to collect the astral wind flying heavenly boar's soul. The desolate beast corpses they encountered earlier had no souls. Maybe because they had died for a long time, their souls had flown away from their bodies, but the more likely reason was that Shirley or Star Lord Wanxiang had taken them. This astral wind flying heavenly boar had not been looted yet because the battle had just ended, thus Fang Yuan had a chance. But the result was very disappointing. This astral wind flying heavenly boar's soul was heavily injured, only a little bit was left. Evidently, during the earlier battle, it was attacked by methods directed at the soul. No wonder the star path Gu immortal earlier did not fly here to collect the soul of this boar. Fang Yuan sighed, he willed and mobilized several hundred Gu worms. These Gu were from light path and dark path, while a small number were from strength path, blood path, bone path, and chi path. Under Fang Yuan's control, these Gu worms flew around the surface of the astral wind flying heavenly boar's body, going round and round as Fang Yuan nodded to He Lulan. He Lulan was prepared since long ago. Once Fang Yuan gave the signal, she used the tens of Gu worms prepared earlier. Using these Gu worms, the astral wind flying heavenly boar corpse was quickly pushed into He Lulan's immortal aperture in a short time. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan activated the several hundred Gu worms, remaining at the same spot as they continued to fly in the same manner as earlier. They gave out bursts of light and shadow, forming into one figure. It was the image of the astral wind flying heavenly boar. It was very realistic. Simply looking at it, one would think this was really the astral wind flying heavenly boar in front of them. Your method is really good. He Lulan praised again. Earlier, Star Lord Wanxiang felt nothing wrong. He was deceived by this method. Fang Yuan shook his head. This simple method cannot deceive proper investigation. If I can elevate it to a killer move, the effect would be better. Oh no. He Lulan suddenly froze. She pointed at one area and noted to Fang Yuan, "You have a flaw here." Fang Yuan looked over and indeed, on the image of the astral wind flying heavenly boar, the anus was missing. How could the flying heavenly boar not have an anus? This was indeed a huge flaw. Fang Yuan quickly manipulated his Gu worms, adjusting the image and forming the anus. But He Lulan said, "Not good, not good, now that the anus is here, the penis is gone." Fang Yuan looked and was embarrassed. The astral wind flying heavenly boar is too high level of an existence and has a gigantic body. My methods cannot replicate it fully. This is the limit. To create something, it will have to lose something. He Lulan nodded. Her tone was grand and fearless. Then stop changing it, keep the penis and discard the anus, that is more realistic. Fang Yuan followed what she said and changed the image back. Hey, Fang Yuan, aren't you proficient in researching killer moves? When we go back, you should raise this to the level of a killer move. That would make it easier to use. He Lulan said in amusement. Do you think we will still encounter such good things later? This method is sufficient, we do not need to make it a killer move. Fang Yuan shook his head, before raising it and looking at the sky. The roof of the Star Hall only had a small hole earlier, but now holes were all around the Star Hall. All of the explosion sounds were even louder than before. As he was looking, a broken tree flew out of the Star Hall. With a loud bang, the giant tree's branches crashed onto the ground, causing the ground below Fang Yuan and He Lulan's feet to tremble violently. Next, the other half of the giant tree, the crown, also collapsed. This is a walking meat tree. Fang Yuan and He Lulan opened their eyes which were shining brightly. Chapter 722, Zombie Dragon. Walking meat tree was a legendary plant that was recorded in The Legends of Renzu. The Legends of Renzu Chapter 3, Section 16 states. Renzu's third son, Northern Dark Eye's soul was revived by unexpected Gu and was wandering outside. After encountering his sister, Desolate Ancient Moon, he gave her a new meaning in life. Next, under the guidance of Wisdom Gu, the brother and sister came to the Blue Sea to search for the life gem that could revive their father, Renzu. In the end, Desolate Ancient Moon sensed the mysteries behind life and sacrificed herself, being turned into a damaged life gem. Northern Dark Eye's soul carried the life gem as he attempted to return to his father, to revive Renzu. But it was extremely difficult for him to enter the door of life and death. The door of life and death had two routes, one was the road of life, the other was the road of death. No matter which path it was, there would be a lot of suffering Gu. To overcome the interference of the suffering Gu, to enter deep into the door of life and death, he would need the help of Courage Gu. But because Courage Gu had already been taken by Renzu and was currently with him, Northern Dark Eye's soul did not have courage and could not enter the door of life and death. He had no methods left and could only wander around and search for a method to resolve this. He walked past tall mountains, traveled through streams, ran for his life under the assault of wild beasts, and had gone hungry during the intense cold. He had suffered a lot. Northern Dark Ice Soul was filled with guilt and anxiety. Uptodat. DFR. M no/V/E/LB I N.CO/M. He was guilty because he was the one who gave desolate ancient moon her meaning in life, but that caused her to sacrifice herself and become the life gem. Northern Dark Ice Soul was the murderer who indirectly caused his sister's death. He was anxious because even though he had the life gem, he was unable to return to his father's side. He was afraid that if a long time passed, his father's soul might collapse in Luopa Valley, causing desolate ancient moon's sacrifice to be in vain. He walked and walked, until the purple sky above him faded and became black. Originally, the immemorial 9 heavens, white, red, orange, yellow, green, azure, blue, purple, black, would take turns to loom over the 5 regions at set intervals. The sky of the immemorial antiquity era was connected to the ground. Heaven and earth were connected and whole. People could walk towards the sky from the ground, or walk towards the ground from the sky. Northern Dark Ice Soul was walking aimlessly, unknowingly. He left the ground and walked towards an area deep within Black Heaven. It was complete darkness inside Black Heaven, but it was not desolate. There were large numbers of life forms there. Northern Dark Ice Soul was inside the darkness and could not find a way back. He was flustered, scared, and lost. He could not tell what direction to walk. He tripped many times and fell. Suddenly, he saw a lump of fire ahead of him. This was the only source of light in the entirety of Black Heaven. Northern Dark Ice Soul was overjoyed. He quickly walked towards the fire. When he got close to the lump of fire, he realized it was a Gu. Northern Dark Ice Soul was very curious. He asked, "What Gu are you? You can actually give out light in Black Heaven. Help me, I want to leave Black Heaven, heading back to the ground. I have very important things to do." The Gu's voice was very weak. It said to Northern Dark Ice Soul, "My name is Fire, who are you?" Northern Dark Ice Soul said, "I am a human, my name is Northern Dark Ice Soul. Can you help me? With your light, I will be able to see the way, and return to the ground." The Gu sighed, "So you are a human. I've heard of a famous human before. He is called Verdant Great Sunday. Because Verdant Great Sun had reputation Gu, his name was spread in the entire world. There was almost nobody that did not know him." Northern Dark Ice Soul was overjoyed. "That's right, Verdant Great Sun is my big brother." Fire Gu said, "I can help you. But before I help you, you have to help me. I am too hungry. I am going to die of starvation. Go find me some food first." Northern Dark Ice Soul asked, "Oh, Fire Gu, what do you eat? This place is completely dark. How can I find what you need to eat?" Fire Gu said, "I am the least picky Gu worm in the entire world. I can eat almost anything. I will eat whatever you feed me." Northern Dark Ice Soul searched around, finding some tree branches and throwing them towards Fire Gu. After Fire Gu ate, it started to shine more brightly. It was giving off a warmer light, and it also grew from the size of a fist to around the size of a basin. It was very happy. "Can you bring me more food?" Northern Dark Ice Soul nodded and looked around, finding a pile of rocks and throwing them at Fire Gu. After eating for some time, Fire Gu sighed, "Sigh, I was way too hungry. My teeth are not working well now. The things I could chew before, I can't chew them now. Bring me some stuff that are easy to digest." Northern Dark Ice Soul thought about it. "How about this, Fire Gu, follow me and light the way. Along the way, whatever you feel like eating, I will feed to you. Is that all right?" Fire Gu agreed and condensed into a small lump, letting Northern Dark Ice Soul hold it. Like this, Northern Dark Ice Soul left on his return journey. Along the way, he fed many things to Fire Gu. After a while, Fire Gu grew larger. On this day, Northern Dark Ice Soul was resting. Fire Gu was eating branches in front of him while swaying with the wind. Suddenly, countless footsteps could be heard. Northern Dark Ice Soul looked and saw a huge group of trees shining under the light of the fire. They were running towards him in huge numbers. Not just trees, there were also countless wild beasts and insect groups. Northern Dark Ice Soul was extremely scared. He quickly picked up Fire Gu and ran. Behind him, the trees, wild beasts, and insect groups were chasing. Wherever Northern Dark Ice Soul went, they followed. The pursuers shouted, "Whoever is in front, stop running. We do not want to harm you, we just want to escape into the light. Dream realms are about to reach us, please help us and let us live under the light of the fire." Northern Dark Ice Soul was breathing roughly. He could not run any further. Seeing that he was about to be caught, Fire Gu said, "Oh human, don't be afraid, these pursuers are my food, let me help you. Just toss me there." Northern Dark Ice Soul was forced by the circumstances. He could only listen to Fire Gu and toss it towards them. What Fire Gu first encountered were a huge group of trees. These trees were walking meat trees. The branches were made of meat, they resembled the tentacles of octopuses. Fire Gu burned all of these trees, turning the trunks into ashes, and branches into cooked meat. The smell of fragrant meat attracted Northern Dark Ice Soul and he picked up one to eat, exclaiming that it was delicious. He Lu Lan stared with eyes wide open, looking at the broken tree trunk as well the tentacle-like branches, speaking in disbelief. This is a walking meat tree. Absolutely. Fang Yuan nodded, his gaze was heated as well. Right now, only black heaven and white heaven are left from the immemorial 9 heavens. Walking meat tree is a life form from black heaven. It is much easier to obtain than other immemorial life forms in the other heavens. After all, black heaven is still around. 7-star child is a rank 8 Gu immortal. He has the ability to explore black heaven. This walking meat tree was most likely something he obtained from his explorations. This walking meat tree has an amazing aura. It has rank 7 battle strength at least. Even more amazingly, it is a rare strength path plant. He Lu Lan licked her lips, saying excitedly. Fang Yuan was also overjoyed. Walking meat tree was a strength path plant. The branches, trunks and leaves were all excellent materials to refine strength path Gu worms. Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan were strength path Gu immortals, they had great use for it. But when the two were going to sneak over and take the walking meat tree, there was a huge, thunderous explosion in the sky. This was an unprecedentedly large explosion. It shook the sky as a formless sound wave spread out intensely. The 8-star hull shook harshly, it also broke apart as large amounts of starlight dispersed. It was in a half-ruined state. Roar! The roar of a dragon could be heard, not any softer than the explosion earlier. Next, Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan saw Shirlei and Star Lord Wanxiang fly out of the star hull. A huge dragon flew out of the star hull. This dragon was hundreds of meters long. It was eerie and ominous. The dragon horn on its head was like silver, the dragon's eyes were half open, and the scales were like gray rocks. There were 8 dragon claws that were fearsome and powerful. Pale white zombie energy was coiling around its body like a mist. Is this a zombie dragon? He Lu Lan exposed the identity of this dragon. Zombie dragon was not an immemorial life form. After Fate Gu was broken by Red Lotus Demon Venerable, souls in the world were no longer sucked directly into the door of life and death, thus zombies were born. A zombie dragon was formed after a giant dragon died. If its soul did not leave the body, it would undergo a transformation and become a zombie dragon. This zombie dragon has 8 claws. It should have been an immemorial desolate beast when it was alive, having rank 8 battle strength. Now that it is dead, becoming a zombie dragon, it has battle strength at the peak of rank 7, no wonder Shirlei was forced out of the star hull. Fang Yuan analyzed. In the air, the zombie dragon was growling as its body twisted, flying toward Shirley. The dragon opened its mouth and shot out a stream of pale white zombie fire. Dragon fire was a primary form of attack of the giant dragon, that was a natural ability for them, like the horns of a bull, the paws of a bear, or the stinger of a bee. Wherein is shown in Shirley's eyes, he did not dare to receive the attack head-on. He continued to fly to the left. After dodging the zombie fire, a huge dragon tail entered his vision. Shirley opened his eyes wide as he placed both arms in front of him, defending his chest. He could not dodge it. In Fang Yuan, Star-Lord Wanxiang and He Lu Lan's vision, they saw that the zombie dragon had elegantly moved in the air, turning its huge body and swinging its tail, directly crashing it into Shirley, who had dodged the zombie fire. With a loud bang, Shirley was sent fly harshly like a cannonball. He crashed onto a point partway up a mountain, entering deep into the mountain rocks. The entire mountain was shaking as rocks fell from above. They quickly covered him up completely. Star-Lord Wanxiang sucked in a breath of cold air. He retreated hurriedly. The zombie dragon was so powerful, this was the first time he had seen immortal Monkey King Shirley in such a pathetic state. But soon, he heard Shirley shouting under the pile of rocks, "Worm, you have truly angered me, have a taste of my immortal killer move." Shocking rock break. The sky burst open as a small hill was aimed towards the zombie dragon. He Lu Lan's eyelids were twitching. This immortal killer move's activation is so fast. Normally, the stronger the immortal killer move, the more time is needed to activate it. But Shirley's shocking rock break defied common logic. Not only was it strong, it could be used very quickly. Even the zombie dragon could not dodge it. But the zombie dragon did not want to dodge it. Seeing the small hill that was approaching it, a hint of disdain flashed across the dragon's eyes. With a loud bang, the zombie dragon raised its head and rammed into the small hill. Shirley's immortal killer move had no effect. Good, such an opponent is what I like. Shirley was shocked and excited. He shot up into the sky and crashed into the zombie dragon. The human and dragon engaged in the sky. Winds were blowing and clouds were in turbulence. Heaven and earth were changing colors. Fang Yuan's pupils shrunk. This zombie dragon is not simple. It seems that defensive immortal goo worms had been used on its body before. Then what do we do now? He Lu Lan was very troubled. Under their watchful eyes, there is no way we can get the walking meat tree. Chapter 723, Shocking Appearance of Star Constellation Immortal Venerable. In the sky, the human and dragon were engaging in battle. With loud explosions, the battle was entering its climax. Star-Lord Wanxiang was at the side. He could not interfere at all. Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan were hiding in the forest on the ground. They were observing the fighting and awaiting their chance. The huge dragon roared. Zombie energy was bursting from it as the famous expert of Central Continent, Shirley, was in a disadvantage. This zombie dragon is incredible. When it was alive, it was a wind path azure dragon. After becoming a zombie dragon, not only does it have wind path and dark path Dao marks, its speed is even amplified by immortal goo. After observing the battle, He Lu Lan gradually understood the situation. Starry Sky Grotto Heaven's owner, 7-star child, originally had a wind path immortal goo, called Wind Sprint Immortal Goo. But using this goo required immortal essence. According to rumors, 7-star child had once developed a killer move that could apply the effects of the immortal goo on another target for a long period of time. Looking at this now, it seems the rumors were right. Fang Yuan added. The zombie dragon's defense and movement were boosted by immortal goo. It was experienced in battle and its giant dragon body could strike with huge force. Manipulating its tail while flying, it gave off an unrestrained aura. Most importantly, the zombie energy dragon flames were very powerful. They were on par with the highest tier of mortal killer moves. Shirley continued to shout as he used near 10 different battle tactics, but he could not change the situation. Often, when he took back some of the initiative, the zombie dragon would suppress him again. The zombie dragon had no weakness in attack, defense, or movement, it had an all-around advantage. Hei Lu Lan's expression turned heavy as she watched. She said solemnly, "Shirley's battle strength far surpasses my estimation. If it had been me, facing the attacks of the zombie dragon, would only last for a moment before getting killed by it. If it was you, Fang Yuan, unless you could use Myriad's self, you would only hold on for a while longer than me, there is no way of winning." Fang Yuan did not rebuke her. Hei Lu Lan's assessment was very reasonable. Although she was a strength path extreme immortal, because of her life experiences, she was not arrogant at all, she was humble and vigilant, she understood her own strength clearly. The reason why Fang Yuan could last longer than her was because of his flying attainment, as well the movement killer moved true solid bat wings. But even if Fang Yuan's speed surpassed Hei Lu Lan, without the killer move Myriad self, he could not pose a threat to the zombie dragon. He could only run away, as icy drill stardust could not cause damage to the zombie dragon, he had no way to win. Although Hei Lu Lan had strength path immortal Gu, and half an offensive immortal killer move, her offense surpassed Fang Yuan but her movement speed and defense were her weaknesses. Although she could cause damage to the zombie dragon, it would not take a beating without fighting back. Once they fought, Hei Lu Lan would not last as long as Fang Yuan. Those who were called experts not only had battle strength, they also needed great insight. Looking at information and knowing if they could do it or not, whether they could win or not. That was the ability to assess a situation and know one's own limits. Without these abilities, even if one had great strength, they would not go far. Knowing whom they could offend, know whom they could not afford to offend, knowing when to battle or retreat, retreating was not cowardly, it was treasuring one's own life, awaiting the time where they could soar toward success. In this situation, we have no way of succeeding. We should leave the walking meat tree there, I suggest we retreat. Fang Yuan said. Hei Lu Lan nodded, that was my intention as well, nobody can predict any accidents in battle. Even if we stay here and take a risk of getting discovered, we cannot do anything anyway, we should withdraw towards a safer location. The two came to an agreement and retreated stealthily. Their advantage was that they were in the dark while their enemies were out in the open, they could afford to watch on the sidelines. Right now, the enemies were stronger than them, they had to hold on to this advantage. After they retreated to a safe distance, Hei Lu Lan suddenly said, "Actually, I have a question, how did they get in?" Fang Yuan's gaze shone, I was thinking about this question too. The area near the Star Hall that we came in from did not have any investigative Gu worms around, that is not the usual behavior of Gu immortals. In this case, we can deduce that they did not come from a Star Hall. This area is the place where they first arrived in. To enter someone else's blessed land or grotto heaven, the most usual method is to follow cracks and loopholes, or Gu worms like connecting heaven Gu and whole earth Gu. Hei Lu Lan continued. Vischten. Velbin, c. M for new updates. It is unlikely for them to use whole earth Gu or connecting heaven Gu, after all, both sides need to agree for that to work. This starry sky grotto heaven is quite strange, the heavenly spirit has not shown up yet, after being here for so long, we have not faced any obstacles as well. And if Shirley's group was able to gain access normally, they would not be fighting so intensely. Fang Yuan said. Thus, it is most likely that they used a loophole or crack. Hei Lu Lan laughed. A dark light shined in Fang Yuan's eyes, he spoke what Hei Lu Lan was thinking but did not say out loud, they are not like us who have fixed immortal travel, so be it if they have other space path Gu worms. But if they really came in from a loophole, we can use this to ambush them or plot against them, we might have a huge profit from it. If Star-Lord Wanxiang and Shirley heard this, they would definitely be breaking out in cold sweat. Fang Yuan and Hei Lu Lan were demons full of evil ideas, most importantly, they could keenly analyze and would not give up on any minute clues. They even managed to guess Shirley's and Star Lord Wanxiang's method of entering the grotto heaven. But just as Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan were about to search for the loophole, the battle in the sky changed. Shirley had been fighting for a long time, suppressed by the zombie dragon the whole time. He was growling in anger. He quickly moved back as he pulled some distance, his body started shaking. Immortal Battlefield Killer Move, Rolling Rock Battlefield. The sky was changing, turning into a gray rock battlefield. The battlefield rapidly expanded, covering the zombie dragon and Shirley. From outside, it looked like a huge gray rock cloud was hanging in the sky. It completely blocked any vision from outside. He Lu Lan's and Fang Yuan's hearts shuddered. He Lu Lan thought, an amazing method. It actually is an immortal-level battlefield killer move. To form such a killer move, he needs to use at least 3 immortal Gu, and these immortal Gu need to be connected in some way. Fang Yuan was thinking, rolling rock battlefield. In my previous life, vicious lightning fiend lost to this move. To think that Shirley has already obtained this method at this time. At the same time, Star Lord Wanxiang was thinking, Shirley is going to fight the zombie dragon to the end. What should I do? There are no longer any ancient desolate beast guards inside the 8-star hall. The battlefield killer move also isolates the inside and outside of the domain. Should I explore the 8-star hall first? The more Star Lord Wanxiang thought about it, the more he was moved. After a dozen breaths of time, he could not control it anymore. He turned into a shooting star and flew into the 8-star hall. Seeing Star Lord Wanxiang move so swiftly, He Lu Lan and Fang Yuan stopped their current plans. The two were familiar with people's thought processes. They had keen perception. They immediately guessed the possibility that the Star Hall's defenses were no longer a threat. Let's bet on it. Do you dare to bet on it and charge in? Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan transmitted at the same time. They flew up and towards the 8-star hall. The two came to the 8-star hall and found the ravaged battlefield. There were 3 defenses in the 8-star hall. The first was the astral wind flying heavenly boar, the second was the walking meat tree, and the third was the zombie dragon. After the 3 defenses were gone, one could enter the deepest area of the Star Hall. The two used their defensive killer moves at the same time, moving together deep into the Star Hall. Soon, they found the inner hall. The inner hall's doors were opened, as Star Lord Wanxiang was already inside. Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan did not dare to waste their precious time. They hid their figures and stepped into the inner hall. At the next moment, they saw Star Lord Wanxiang. Star Lord Wanxiang was in a strange condition. His back was facing Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan as he stood on the spot, shivering as if he was filled with extreme fright. Immortal Venerable, please spare me. Suddenly, he shouted with a tone filled with fear. He directly knelt on the ground. He was begging for mercy. Before him was deep darkness. The lights in the inner hall were not lit. There was no light source. Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan could only see the figure of a huge throne. Immortal Venerable. He Lu Lan and Fang Yuan looked at each other. Acting mysterious. Soon after, Fang Yuan snorted coldly as he walked forward. He Lu Lan followed behind. At the next moment, their pupils shrunk to pin size as their bodies froze like a rock. A woman's figure appeared before them. She was wearing a dark blue robe. Her hair was dazzling like the Milky Way, drooping down. She looked down from above as she pointed at Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan. You two juniors are simply too daring. You dare to offend Star Constellation Immortal Venerable, quickly kneel down. The aura of rank 9 was overwhelming. She was the real deal. Central Continent, Spirit Affinity House, by Qing Blessed Land. The sunlight pierced the window as it shone on a small building on a mountain. In the small building, there was a warm and comfortable bed. on it was a woman sitting in a meditating position. This woman had inborn beauty like that of a flower, she had white skin and a straightly pointed nose with red lips, she wore a phoenix coronet as she appeared elegant and grand, incapable of being profaned. She was Feng Jin Huang. Because of Dream Wing's immortal Gu, she had gotten into a strange state where she had not woken up for a very long time. All of the Gu immortals in Spirit Affinity House could do nothing to help her. A small sparrow was chirping as it flew onto the window from a tree branch outside. As if she had heard this, Feng Jin Huang's eyelashes suddenly moved. Soon after, she opened her eyes, she had woken up. Huang Heir, my Huang Heir, you have finally woken up. Almost at the same time, Feng Jin Huang's mother, Fairy Bai Qing, appeared in the building. Looking at Feng Jin Huang who had woken up, she was overjoyed and in tears, she hugged Feng Jin Huang tightly. Mother, Huang Heir was unfilial, I have worried you. Feng Jin Huang hugged Bai Qing as she consoled her maturely. All is fine as long as you are all right, Huang Heir, are you injured, do you feel anything wrong? Fairy Bai Qing was worried, she touched Feng Jin Huang's face and shoulders, checking everywhere. It is not a problem, mother. This time, I have found the true use of Dream Wing's immortal Gu. It can bring me into dream realms. Feng Jin Huang said. Dream realms? Fairy Bai Qing was shocked. At the next moment, she reacted, her pupils expanded as she showed some uncertain joy, she grabbed Feng Jin Huang's shoulders, daughter, are you sure? It really is about dream realms? Chapter 724, Pitiful Dreamer, Precarious Situation in Dream. That's right. Feng Jin Huang nodded with certainty, using Dream Wing's immortal Gu, I traveled in a dream realm, I encountered many life forms. I met many people, there were Gu masters and ordinary people. I saw many wild beasts, tigers, wolves, rabbits, rats, I even found a desolate beast iron crown eagle, I watched it grow up from birth. In the end, I came across an old man, he had a strange temperament, constantly muttering to himself, saying that he is called Kong Ju, he often killed people and dissected their corpses, it was terrifying. He even tried to block my way, I could only dodge left and right and had to escape for a long time. Otherwise, I would have woken up long ago. When Feng Jin Huang first spoke, she had an excited and agitated tone, but when she mentioned Kong Ju, her tone became grim and she felt some lingering fear. Fairy Bai Qing heard this and stared straight at her daughter. Mother, what's wrong? Only when Feng Jin Huang was starting to get worried and asked did Fairy Bai Qing breathe in deeply, her eyes showing extreme happiness, Huang Heir, your opportunity has come. It seems you truly entered a dream realm. The Kong Ju that you mentioned is likely to be old immortal Kong Ju, in history, he was one of the three olds, along with old eccentric Tian Nan and long hair ancestor. The so-called three olds were the three refinement path supreme grandmasters over the long course of history. No wonder I felt that Kong Ju was so familiar when I heard the name. Feng Jin Huang realized at once, but then her beautiful face showed some confusion, but why did I encounter old immortal Kong Ju? Why did he want to capture me? Why is it that after I woke up, I felt that there are a lot of refinement path methods in my mind, my recognition of certain Gu worms became clearer, and when I see a Gu worm, I would think of its refinement recipe, the materials needed, the funds necessary for the refinement and so on. Great fortune. This is your great fortune. Fairy Bai Qing raised her head and sighed, tears were almost about to fall from her eyes. Mother, what is this dream realm, why is it so magical? Feng Jin Huang asked again. Fairy Bai Qing let out a breath of cloudy air, she calmed her emotions and said gently, regarding dream realms, Mother does not know much either, but the earliest record of a dream realm is written in the Legends of Renzu. The Legends of Renzu, Chapter 3, Section 16 states, Renzu's third son, Northern Dark Ice Soul had entered a deep part of Black Heaven, obtaining Fire Gu. He was chased by many life forms inside Black Heaven. Left without a choice, he tossed Fire Gu towards them to protect himself. Fire Gu lit up many of the walking meat trees, and the fire spread out to ignite many of the wild beasts' bodies. At once, life forms were crying out as the light of the flames burst out brightly. So many delicious things, so many delicious things. Fire Gu shouted in excitement. It was no longer weak like before, it was tall and imposing, there was even a hint of ruthlessness and madness in its tone. Northern Dark Ice Soul was shocked. Fire, oh fire, how did you become so huge? I said, I am the least picky when it comes to food, I can eat almost anything. Fire can draw out more fire, a spark can create a forest fire. Fire Gu shouted proudly as it answered. Suddenly, the flame rose up like a wall, moving towards Northern Dark Ice Soul. Northern Dark Ice Soul quickly took a step back. Fire Gu laughed loudly, "Oh human, do not be scared. You saved me, you are my benefactor, you are my friend. They are afraid of me, but they need me to deal with those dream realms, thus they imprisoned me and starved me. Only you helped me, thus you are my true friend. From now on, if you have any difficulties, you can count on me." Northern Dark Ice Soul's heart was eased, he said happily, "That would be great, my friend." Friend. Fire Gu laughed loudly, it turned into a form of a human as it opened its arms, wanting to give Northern Dark Ice Soul a hug. Northern Dark Ice Soul jumped back in fear. "Oh fire, excessive fervor is the fire of self-immolation, let's keep a distance between us." Fire Gu had no choice but to stop its actions, it spun around Northern Dark Ice Soul as he said, "Oh human, you are so weak, you are not fun." Northern Dark Ice Soul was surrounded in flames, he quickly waved his hand, "Don't get too close, don't get too close. It is so hot, way too hot, leave a path open for me to walk out." Fire Gu had to open a path for Northern Dark Ice Soul to walk out of. After he walked for several hundred steps, he looked back at the blazing sea of fire with a sigh of relief. But at this time, a wild beast came out from the shadows behind him, swallowing Northern Dark Ice Soul in one mouthful. That is a dream realm. There are so many dream realms, they are catching up. Many life forms shouted as they escaped. "Quickly release my friend." Fire Gu shouted in anger, pouncing towards the beast group of dream realms. The dream realm beast group shrunk when shown by the light of the fire, they rapidly melted like a candle. They growled and scattered all over the place. Fire Gu continued to eat along the way, it spread towards the dream realm that consumed Northern Dark Ice Soul. The dream realms were escaping, but Fire Gu was chasing behind them. Among the escaping dream realms, the larger their bodies, the stronger they were, and the faster they ran away. Soon, they pulled some distance from Fire Gu. As it turned out, the dream realms used the emotions and desires of their prey to strengthen themselves. Northern Dark Ice Soul, who was swallowed by a dream realm, had a huge desire to survive. At the same time, his greatest goal was to revive his father. In addition, he was filled with anxiety and was afraid he would not make it. He was also filled with guilt and regret, because desolate ancient Moon died due to him giving her a meaning in life. One could say that Northern Dark Ice Soul was the best prey for the dream realms. The dream realm who swallowed him grew rapidly. Fire Gu growled loudly in anger, but it was getting closer to the dream realm. Northern Dark Ice Soul was deep inside the dream realm, he had fallen asleep. In his dream, he saw desolate ancient Moon reviving and smiling to him, calling him a good brother and saying she forgave him, and that she knew he did not do it intentionally. He saw that he was at the door of life and death, successfully saving his father, Renzu. Renzu praised him, "You are indeed my good son, if not for you, father would not have revived." Northern Dark Ice Soul's face was filled with a blissful smile. And like that, many days passed. The sea of fire was still burning intensely, it spread all over Black Heaven as it finally blocked all of the dream realms which were escaping. Under the burning of the flames, the dream realm quickly melted as Northern Dark Eye's soul fell onto the ground, waking up from his dream. He suddenly understood that everything in his dream was fake, his happiness was not real, what he faced was a burning hot fire Gu. But his face was filled with tears, he felt an extreme cold that was piercing into his bones. He cried out loud, questioning Fire Gu, why did you wake me up? I still want to dream, I want to be eaten by the dream realm. The most up to that. Fire Gu reminded him helplessly, "Oh human, you must know, dreams are often the opposite of reality, they are fake." "I don't want to listen, I don't care." Northern Dark Eye's soul cried out as he covered his ears and shook his head. Fire Gu was anxious, "I am your friend, I do not want." Northern Dark Eye's soul interrupted it before it finished, "Since you are my friend, you should not restrict me or obstruct me." Sigh. Fire Gu let out a long sigh, it fell into silence, giving Northern Dark Eye's soul a path leading out without a better choice. Northern Dark Eye's soul quickly ran out, wanting to find another dream realm within the darkness to have him eaten once again. Central Continent, Starry Sky Grotto Heaven. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable. Facing this person, Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan were tongue-tied, they were shocked and dazed. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable, one of the 10 venerables in the history of Gu Masters. Legends regarding her had been passed down even until this day. She was a rarely seen female rank 9 Gu Immortal, the founder of Wisdom Path, and the creator of Star Path. She was the second-generation reigning immortal of Heavenly Court. Even after death she plotted against 3 demon venerables, protecting Heavenly Court from danger. Now that she was standing in front of Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan, she looked down arrogantly as her grand aura of rank 9 burst out towards them. What is going on? Star Constellation Immortal Venerable. She is still alive. He Lu Lan gritted her teeth, feeling an immense pressure. Even if she had great confidence, and was a formidable person plotting to kill her own father, at this moment her body was shaking as she faced an intense trial of her will. After all, the other party was at the peak of Gu Masters, a rank 9 Gu Immortal, the legendary Star Constellation Immortal Venerable that she had heard about since a young age. He Lu Lan could not help but feel her legs go soft, while Star Lord Wanxiang in front of her was already kneeling on the ground, kowtowing as he begged for mercy. The aura of rank 9 was undeniable. But Fang Yuan gritted his teeth, his eyes shining with ruthlessness. This feeling? This feeling. This is actually a piece of a dream realm. He could only growl in his mind, he could not produce any sound. He could not move at all, under the pressure of the rank 9 aura, he felt like an ant that was sealed inside amber. Under the intense threat of life and death, Fang Yuan felt a strong sense of danger in his heart. I have to get out of this dream realm, otherwise, all of my plans after rebirth would come to a halt. My plan for eternal life would end here. True solid bat wings, detonate now. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth, at the crucial moment, he decided to make a sacrifice. The bat wings that he had transplanted after much effort detonated under Fang Yuan's resolute decision. An intense sense of pain assaulted him, turning into a formless energy that protected Fang Yuan's entire body. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable gasped lightly, looking at Fang Yuan deeply, an immortal zombie, yet so fascinating. Just as she said that, under Fang Yuan's perception, the entire scene changed, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable vanished, and the 8th star hall disappeared. What he could see was a blue-robed Gu Immortal with his face facing Fang Yuan, looking up at the clear moon in the sky above the clouds. He muttered, "Heaven has taken pity on me. I, 7-star child, have finally combined the 7-star spaces into one, forming the unified starry sky grotto heaven. I have passed another huge obstacle in my cultivation journey, I am one step closer to rank 9 realm, one step closer." Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Seven-star child seemed to be unable to sense Fang Yuan's existence. He continued to face Fang Yuan as he had no inclination to turn around. He continued to laugh loudly, his laughter was filled with joy, even Fang Yuan was affected by it and started to feel happy. Fang Yuan started to feel some joy in him, but his body was turning cold, like he was in an icy domain. Oh no! This is a dream within a dream. I had just left the dream of star constellation Immortal Venerable, but now I am inside seven-star child's dream. But this time, Fang Yuan had no bat wings left to detonate. Chapter 725, Seven-Star Child Awakens. Not good. A person's dream realm is filled with their desires and emotions. I am currently experiencing joy after hearing seven-star child's laughter. It is a signal that I am starting to be infected by the dream's emotions. Being inside seven-star child's dream realm, Fang Yuan knew the situation was terrible. He had his previous life's experiences, he knew about the dangers of a dream realm. If one was careless, a Grand Gu immortal could lose himself inside a dream realm, dying in the end. At this moment, Fang Yuan had not fallen too deeply into it. To leave the dream realm, the most effective way was to stimulate himself with severe pain. But as an immortal zombie, he had no sense of pain. If not for the fact that he had retained the sense of pain in his true solid bat wings earlier, he would have been stuck in star constellation Immortal Venerable's dream realm. The encounter earlier was extremely precarious. Thankfully, Fang Yuan had his previous life's memories and recognized that it was a dream realm, thus he could leave before he sunk further into it. Fortunately, he had true solid bat wings, and the pain produced from the self-detonation exceeded the power of star constellation Immortal Venerable's dream, thus Fang Yuan was pushed out of the rank 9 Venerable's dream. But just when Fang Yuan escaped from the tiger's den, he entered the wolf's cave. Seven-star child was a rank 8 Gu immortal. He did not have a prominent reputation, but his battle strength would have been exemplary. Be it Fang Yuan during his previous life or Fang Yuan currently, he was not seven-star child's match. Fang Yuan had no more pain that he could inflict. He felt helpless at this moment, like he was quietly awaiting death. No, there has to be a way, there is another way. Fang Yuan's lips were dry, he was nervously clenching his fists. Huh! Sensing his clenched fists, a brilliant light shined in Fang Yuan's red eyes. He was overjoyed. There is a chance. Although seven-star child is rank 8, he is far inferior to star constellation Immortal Venerable. In star constellation Immortal Venerable's dream, I could not move at all. But in seven-star child's dream, I have not lost all of my movement ability yet. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan raised one arm with much difficulty. It felt like a huge mountain was pressing on his hand. Such a simple act of raising his arm became extremely difficult. Rise, rise up. Fang Yuan's veins were popping. He stared at this arm as he exerted all of his strength. After 15 minutes, he finally raised his hand to an appropriate degree. With much difficulty, he slowly opened his 5 fingers, conjuring a lump of starlight in his palm. There were countless icy shards in the starlight, a continuously soft explosion could be heard from them. The blue starlight shined the entire area blue. Seeing this starlight lump, Fang Yuan had an intense feeling of joy and satisfaction. Oh no, I'm starting to feel the same joyful emotions as him. The deeper I am in this dream realm, the more mobility I lose. Fang Yuan reacted, suppressing his emotions. As he expected, his mobility had fallen greatly. He could raise his arm earlier, but now he could only move his fingers. His hand spent a lot of effort to create a lump of starlight. This was his final hope. Hidden dream realms cannot be attacked using normal methods. But this piece of dream realm is different. It has already surfaced. Since it can interfere with outside forces now, it can also be disrupted and destroyed by those outside forces. Although this piece of dream realm had star constellation Immortal Venerable and 7-star child's dreams, it had immense value. It was a huge waste to destroy it, but if Fang Yuan did not do this, he would lose his life. He had no choice but to do this. Fang Yuan exerted all of his strength, his 5 fingers trembled as the icy drill stardust flew out of his palm slowly. Carrying Fang Yuan's hope, the icy drill stardust slowly hit 7-star child's back. Ha ha ha, I succeeded, I fused the 7 stars into one. Ha 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 ha, guh. 7-star child's laughter came to a stop, he turned around but his body was shattering rapidly like a mirror. Fang Yuan could only see his face clearly, his entire body had collapsed. A good chance. Fang Yuan's entire body relaxed, like the formless mountain pressing on his body had been lifted. Fang Yuan regained his mobility and immediately retreated. If he did not move, when the dream realm recovers, he would not be able to any longer. But 7-star child's dream was much more fragile than what Fang Yuan had expected. Not only did 7-star child's body shatter, the surrounding clouds and the moon in the sky shattered. In the blink of an eye, this dream realm of 7-star child vanished completely. How could that be? My icy drill stardust is not strong, all it could do was shatter 7-star child's image, he should recover very quickly. Wait, this situation, could it be? A flash of inspiration appeared in Fang Yuan's mind, he thought of a possibility. As if responding to his thoughts, a sharp growl could be heard from within the 8-star hall, the voice creating strong sound waves. Who disrupted my sleep? At the deep, dark spot of the 8th-star area, high up on the throne, there were 2 blue eyes shining brightly. Soon after, a body of an immortal zombie resembling a mortal person stood up and stepped out, furiously looking around, fixing his gaze on Star Lord Wanxiang, He Lulan and Fang Yuan. At once, Fang Yuan felt extremely alert. He moved his entire body and retreated quickly, he did not even have time to turn around, he directly charged out of the Star Hall. It turns out that 7-star child had not died, but transformed into an immortal zombie. No wonder the heavenly spirit did not appear. He Lulan, I can only help you to this extent. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth, before leaving, he fired icy drill stardust towards He Lulan. Worms, you court death. 7-star child first went to Star Lord Wanxiang. He raised his leg and harshly stepped on Star Lord Wanxiang's back. Bam! With a loud boom, he created a hole in the 8-star hall, Star Lord Wanxiang's chest was almost entirely smashed. His injured body was like a shooting star, flying down and crashing into the forest. 7-star child immortal zombie took large strides towards He Lulan. But He Lulan was attacked by the icy drill stardust, under the intense feeling of pain and cold, she narrowly woke up from star constellation immortal venerable's dream realm. 7-star child immortal zombie snickered sinisterly, when he got to around 50 to 60 steps from He Lulan, he pushed with his left arm. He Lulan had yet to react before her entire body moved back subconsciously, at the same time she raised her arms to block. At the next moment, a huge starlight pillar shot out of 7-star child immortal zombie's hand silently. Immortal killer move, Star Billow Pillar. The defense He Lulan created was thoroughly destroyed in the blink of an eye by the starlight pillar. Luckily, He Lulan had obtained a crucial moment to rest, she quickly changed her direction. Star Billow Pillar was a straight-line attack, He Lulan narrowly escaped death and avoided the range of the pillar, retreating quickly. 7-star child immortal zombie halted for a moment, before twisting his left arm and adjusting the direction of the pillar. He Lulan dodged left and right, she narrowly avoided Star Billow Pillar many times. Even if she was hit by the light pillar, it was not for more than 3 breaths of time. After dozens of breaths, the huge starlight pillar in 7-star child's hand vanished, and He Lulan successfully escaped from the 8-star hall, rapidly descending towards the forest. When He Lulan got to Fang Yuan's side, she could not believe that she actually escaped successfully, keeping her life. She did not have strong defensive methods, even with the recovery speed of being a strength path extreme immortal, she could not stay in the light pillar for 4 breaths of time. During the process of her retreat, she was dancing on the edge of death. If there was an accident and she stayed in it for 4 breaths, she would have died. Fang Yuan grabbed her arm and ran towards the deeper parts of the forest. Quickly go. 7-star child immortal zombie had been trapped in that dream realm for too long, his condition is abnormal and there are few thoughts in his mind, his cognition is slow and he cannot think normally now. He Lu Lan was dragged by Fang Yuan, they concealed their figures and stealthily moved past trees after trees, running frantically in the forest. Read Lat. St chapters at no, v, e, l, bin/.c/o/m only. She was still confused even now, she asked rapidly, Dream Realm. The star constellation Immortal Venerable that I saw earlier was also part of a dream realm. What is a dream realm? Suddenly, He Lu Lan's voice came to a stop, seeing the icy drill stardust marks on her body, she shouted in anger, Fang Yuan. You actually attacked me? Shut up. I was saving you, without this icy drill stardust, would you be able to escape from star constellation Immortal Venerable's dream realm? If you could not react in time, you would have been killed by 7-star child immortal zombies immortal killer move already. Fang Yuan did not turn around, he replied in a displeased tone. He Lu Lan was stunned, but she accepted his explanation. Fierce and ambitious people were usually easily suspicious. He Lu Lan did not believe Fang Yuan, what she believed was the Snowy Mountain Alliance that they had. The alliance stated that allies were not to harm or attack each other. When one side was in danger, the other party must attempt to save them to the best of their ability. If Fang Yuan's icy drill stardust was an attack trying to harm He Lu Lan, he would have died from the oath already. Seeing that he was rapidly running, and causing pain to her arm, He Lu Lan understood and broke free from Fang Yuan's grasp, I can move myself. Pausing for a while, He Lu Lan followed behind Fang Yuan as she asked, I will remember this favor of saving my life. The compensation that I give you should certainly satisfy you. However, what is that dream realm? As a strength path extreme immortal, I actually sunk into that dream realm with no way of resisting. Dream realm, is it that dream realm in the Legends of Renzu? Is it connected to Great Dream Immortal Venerable? Also, why are you running so rapidly? We have fixed immortal travel. Shut up. Fang Yuan shouted, running at his full speed. His true solid bat wings were already gone, his speed was much slower now. Worms that invade my territory deserve death. At this point, 7-star child immortal zombie's furious voice could be heard. Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan ran as they looked up, seeing that 7-star child immortal zombie had already flown out of the 8-star hall, his attention was on the rolling rock battlefield that was in the air. This was unavoidable, after all, the rolling rock battlefield was high in the air, it was massive and was like a huge poisonous tumor attached to the starry sky grotto heaven, it attracted too much hostility. 7-star child immortal zombie thought about it for a while, he stretched out his left arm and burst out with another star billow pillar. An immortal level star path killer move, it crashed onto the rolling rock battlefield. The rolling rock battlefield shook intensely, but it did not break. The star billow pillar was certainly an immortal killer move, but rolling rock battlefield was also an immortal killer move. In fact, it was a killer move formed by using 3 immortal Gu that were related to each other. Chapter 726, Retreat. Seeing that his attack did not destroy this despicable poisonous tumor, 7-star child immortal zombie was stunned, he opened his mouth and roared with even more anger, as his right arm pressed towards the rolling rock battlefield. Following his action, a huge hand made of grand starlight formed and slapped the rolling rock battlefield with great force. It was another immortal killer move. After the attack of two immortal killer moves, the rolling rock battlefield cracked open as a huge opening revealed the scene inside the battlefield. It had not broken apart yet. Fang Yuan saw this and retracted his gaze, running without rest. He Lulan let out a breath of foggy air. Her worry was mostly lifted. All right, 7-star child immortal zombie is fighting Shirley now. This is the best situation. Fang Yuan, why are you running? Saving a person. Fang Yuan's reply was extremely brief and to the point. He Lulan was curious, save who? At this time, Fang Yuan turned around a mountain wall and stepped onto a cliff. He pointed, him. He Lulan looked and saw that there was a Gu immortal lying on a cracked rock after a trail of broken trees. It is that Star Path Gu immortal. The two came to Star Lord Wanxiang, and saw that there was a huge hole on his chest. Not only was it completely pierced through, he had lost almost all of his chest, only some flesh by the two sides were holding him together. Such heavy injuries made even He Lulan breathe in sharply. This is the power of 7-star child immortal zombie stomp. Fang Yuan lowered his body and his 8 arms searched Star Lord Wanxiang's body in turns. After a while, Fang Yuan sighed in disappointment, thinking, although his body's injuries are severe, it can be healed by paying a huge cost. But his soul was sucked into the dream realm. Unless Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's dream was broken, this Gu immortal's soul can only wander inside that dream realm, or transform himself into another dream realm. He Lulan was standing at the side, using her investigative Gu to check. She said with some lingering fear, there is no way to save him, even his soul is entirely missing now. Don't tell me it was because of that dream realm. If you did not save me, would I end up in that state as well? What a pity. Fang Yuan muttered, his movements did not stop. If he was still alive, we could still gain important information from him. In fact, we could use your slavery immortal Gu to make him become one of us, doing our bidding. We could even plot against Shirley, and might have a chance of killing Shirley without taking any risks, while also leaving us free from suspicion, obtaining the greatest benefits. Hey, are you listening to my words? He Lulan was stomping her feet in anger. If you have the time for that, why don't you come and help me seal the immortal aperture in his body? Fang Yuan's words attracted all of He Lulan's attention. This was a complete rank 6 blessed land. He Lulan quickly moved ahead and sent out her divine sense, but it could only move around the area outside the immortal aperture, unable to enter. He is dead, but he left behind his obsession. The blessed land now has a land spirit. Fang Yuan's 8 arms were continuing to move, planting all sorts of Gu worms on Star Lord Wanxiang's corpse. Star Lord Wanxiang's injuries continued to heal. What can I do to help? He Lulan was stunned by the incredible techniques that Fang Yuan was using endlessly right now. Fang Yuan's brows were tightly locked, he was concentrating. Sealing the blessed land is a troublesome matter. Thankfully the land spirit has just been formed. I did not expect such a situation. I am lacking Gu worms now. You have to observe the battle situation up there, while communicating with Treasure Yellow Heaven to buy these Gu worms. Remember, we cannot have a single one missing. Saying so, Fang Yuan transmitted his divine sense. I know. He Lulan obtained a list and her face was serious. She stood beside Fang Yuan, acting as a guard while using her own immortal aperture to communicate with Treasure Yellow Heaven. Not just that, she even used the moving perspective cup Gu that Fang Yuan lent her to ask for help from Fairy Li Shan. Boom boom boom. High in the sky, 7-star child immortal zombie continued to attack endlessly. His immortal killer moves were unleashed as if they did not cost any immortal essence at all. He used them one after another. The rolling rock battlefield could not take the pressure and was finally broken. The battlefield broke apart, and the zombie dragon fell from the sky helplessly, like a dead snake with lots of injuries. Shirley, who caused its injuries, was not in a good state either. He was covered in wounds, especially the one on his chest. It extended from his shoulder to his waist. The wound was so deep his bones could be seen. Shirley was panting heavily, his face was pale. There was still a trace of gray-white zombie fire burning on his body. In order to defeat the zombie dragon, he had paid a huge price and suffered heavy injuries. But the more injured he was, the greater his fighting intent. Seeing 7-star child immortal zombie, who was stronger than the zombie dragon, this Gu immortal from combat immortal sect laughed loudly. He did not have any fear, instead, his fighting intent was blazing like a forest fire. Intruder, die. 7-star child immortal zombie shouted, expressionlessly pointing a finger at Shirley. Immortal killer move, 1-star finger. At the same time, Shirley snickered, flipping his palm. Immortal killer move, shocking rock break. The two killer moves were attacking methods that had short activation time but great offensive power. 7-star child immortal zombie's fingertip burst out with starlight. In the blink of an eye, it tore through space and pierced Shirley's chest. Meanwhile, a huge mountain rock pressed down on 7-star child immortal zombie. With a loud bang, 7-star child immortal zombie was sent crashing to the ground, buried under a small hill. Shirley's blood was spewing out in a line, from the front and back of his chest. His body shook in the air for a while. He almost fell, but he managed to continue floating. Shirley was stunned. The attack earlier was too fast. If he did not move his body in time, his heart would have been destroyed. At the area of his wound, there were countless star path Dao marks. As they were near his heart, blood was flowing out unceasingly. Ordinary mortal Gu could not help, even mortal healing killer moves could not do anything, but Shirley had his own healing immortal Gu. After the treatment of the immortal Gu, Shirley's injuries healed rapidly. The blood stopped spewing out, it flowed down his chest like a stream. Right after he finished treating his injuries, the rock that was suppressing 7-star child immortal zombie broke apart. A huge starlight hand pressed hard and broke the rock into pieces, sending the shards flying. Follow EW Stories at n/VELB/in.com. Roar. 7-star child immortal zombie shouted loudly. His body was covered in a multicolored star cloak. With a loud bang, he flew up, only leaving behind an illusory figure on the spot. The intense force caused the ground below the immortal zombie to crack, caving in to form a crater. Shirley's pupils shrunk. He was shocked by 7-star child's burst of speed. Shirley had just summoned his defensive immortal Gu when 7-star child immortal zombie crashed towards him with a loud bang. The immortal Gu's defense was nearly broken. Shirley spat out a mouthful of blood with his vision spinning. He was sent flying into the sky from the impact. Oh no, this is a movement immortal killer move. Shirley could feel the wind brushing against his ears. He tried hard to open his eyes. Whoosh! Hearing something with his ears, Shirley turned around with much difficulty, only to see 7-star child immortal zombie covered in a robe of starlight, piercing the clouds and appearing before him. 7-star child immortal zombie flew alongside Shirley, towards the sky. At that moment, the immortal zombie opened his left palm, aiming it at Shirley's head. Immortal killer move, star billow pillar. Boom! The huge light pillar pierced the cloud layer from a high altitude, penetrating a mountain peak and causing a large area to collapse and fall apart, resulting in much dust and smoke. A body descended from the sky like a broken sack. It was Shirley. He had endured the attack of the star billow pillar for 15 breaths, but he was still alive and had some battle strength left. His entire head was charred black, his facial features were all blurry, like the melted wax of a candle. Roar! Shirley opened his eyes, his golden pupils bursting out with an unprecedented ruthless light. His heart was filled with rage. He finally used his greatest trump card. Earth Path, Transformation Path, Dual Immortal Killer Move, Rock Mountain Immortal Monkey King Transformation. 7-star child immortal zombie charged over, but was repelled by a burst of golden light. When the giant pillar of golden light vanished, a 16-meter-tall giant monkey appeared. The monkey had golden fur, like it was clad in golden armor. The muscles on its body were bulging like huge rocks. Its golden pupils were emitting an emotionless dominance, as the reflection of 7-star child immortal zombie could be seen in its eyes. There were a pair of huge hands with red fingernails that were sharp as swords. When his fingers were extended, his hands looked like two fearsome claws. Opening its mouth, fangs grew. In a moment, fangs were protruding out of its mouth. It was as if a demonic god had descended into the mortal world. On one end, it was the huge immortal Monkey King. On the other end there was the awakened immortal zombie clad in a starry cloak. The two were at a standstill, neither of them attacked yet. Hei Lulan watched with her heart shaking. She knew that the moment the two of them attacked, it would be an overwhelming battle. She could not help but urge Fang Yuan, "Quick, the situation is becoming more troublesome." Okay. But without Immortal Gu, we can only last for 7 minutes. Once the time is up, the immortal aperture will have to land on the ground and take root. Fang Yuan was extremely busy. He felt dizzy as his 8 arms stopped moving in that complex manner. He heaved a deep sigh, looking at the sky, seeing the fearsome immortal Monkey King, as well as the 7-star child immortal zombie who was surrounded by shiny starlight. Immortal Monkey King moved his golden pupils, using his peripheral vision to look at Fang Yuan and Hei Lulan. Fang Yuan's concealment method could not deceive Shirley in his current state. Fang Yuan's pupils shrunk. He found us. Quick, hide the corpse. Hei Lulan's expression was solemn. She quickly dragged Star Lord Wan Xiang's leg and tossed him into her immortal aperture. At this time, 7-star child immortal zombie howled towards the sky. His voice pierced heaven and earth. Beams of starlight pillars shot down from the sky. From the pillars, desolate beasts came out: diamond bear, flying sword rat, star desolate hound, golden pangolin. After 7-star child immortal zombie started thinking again, he finally used the advantage of the grotto heaven. He released the desolate beasts inside the 7 spaces and displayed an overpowering position. Seeing this, Fang Yuan said nothing more, activating fixed immortal travel. Immortal Monkey King's expression changed. Hei Lulan entered Fang Yuan's immortal aperture. In just a few breaths of time, the two of them vanished. Fixed immortal travel, immortal zombie. Fang Yuan. 3 phrases appeared in Immortal Monkey King's mind, but 7-star child immortal zombie charged over again. Shirley was bold, but he was not stupid enough to continue fighting. He flew down, towards the walking meat tree, and placed the 2 segments of the tree into his immortal aperture. Boom! A trace of starlight tore through the sky, piercing Immortal Monkey King's huge body. It was 7-star child's immortal killer move, 1-star finger. After Shirley was hit, his body merely shook slightly. He continued to fly towards the flying heavenly boar corpse. He had the intention to retreat already. He wanted to get his loot before leaving. He endured 7-star child immortal zombie's attacks as he flew towards the astral wind flying heavenly boar corpse, stretching out his arm to grab it, but he got nothing instead. What? Shirley was shocked, seeing the broken mortal Gu on his arm. He understood at once and flew into a rage. It had to be that Fang Yuan. Bam! At the next moment, a star billow pillar hit Immortal Monkey King directly on the back, causing him to fall onto the ground. Chapter 727, Escape. Immortal Monkey King was hit directly by the star billow pillar. With a loud thud, he crashed on the ground, with his head facing the floor. He growled angrily, spitting out the soil in his mouth, getting up quickly. Shirley did not care about the 7-star child immortal zombie. He only wanted to get to the star demon bat corpse, towards the location in his memories. He took huge steps as he ran, uprooting all of the trees in his way. He looked at the star demon bat corpse from afar, joyful to see that it was still intact. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Right at this moment, 3 golden lights flew over from the sky. The golden lights were extremely fast and agile, they were 3 flying sword rat desolate beasts. Shirley snorted coldly, he did not want to engage with them, he raised his arms and covered his face. Clank clank clank. The flying sword rat's nails were as sharp as swords, they scratched Immortal Monkey King's huge body, but no blood was seen as the soft golden monkey fur blocked the nails, emitting a loud metallic noise. Shirley's current form had outstanding defense. The 3 flying sword rats did not let go of Shirley yet, they were small and agile, they followed him and continued to scratch and hack away at his body. Bunches of monkey fur fell from Shirley's body. Wherever Shirley went, monkey fur would scatter on the ground. Damn rats! Shirley shouted, whipping his tail and using it like a golden whip. The flying sword rats were hit by the tail, but after they were sent flying, they returned and continued to disturb him. Just as he was about to reach the star demon bat corpse, a diamond bear appeared. Scram! Shirley was furious, he clenched his fists and swept with his arms, his fists were slamming horizontally as his brute force pushed the heavy diamond bear away. The diamond bear flew in the air for a short distance, before crashing partway up the mountain. With a loud thud, its body which resembled diamonds had cracks on it, but it stood up like it was uninjured. Desolate beasts generally had strong vitality, they were durable and sturdy existences. Shirley did not want to tangle with the diamond bear, he only wanted to get back his loot. He ignored the disturbance of the flying sword rats as he reached the star demon bat corpse and grabbed it with his hand. The star demon bat corpse shattered, he had been deceived once again. Shirley reacted quickly, shouting in anger, "Damn, what method is this? How can it look so real? Flying bear, right, there is still a flying bear here." Still having some hope in his heart, the golden fur giant monkey changed directions and continued to run. Along the way, he was met with obstruction from desolate beasts, but with his brute strength, he forcefully carved out a path. During this period, 7-star child immortal zombie who was in the air attacked non-stop, sending blows towards the golden fur giant monkey, even with the great defense of the immortal monkey king form, his skin was torn and flesh was exposed. Shirley finally got close to the flying bear corpse, but he saw that there were 5 flying bears surrounding the corpse, some made mournful cries while others were licking the blood on the ground. There was one which used its head to nudge the flying bear corpse, but the image flickered. Shirley saw this and lost all hope, it was completely dashed as rage overwhelmed him. It seems that all of the desolate beasts that I killed were stolen by that despicable thief Fang Yuan. All of these are my loot, the fruits of my victory. He dared to steal my possessions, the immortal monkey kings, how long has it been since such a thing has happened? Shirley's huge body attracted the attention of the flying bears. Grr! The 5 flying bears had bloodshot eyes as they charged towards the golden fur giant monkey. Shirley did not have the mood to fight with them, at this point, he knew there was nothing to gain here, he wanted to escape. Even though Star Lord Wanxiang was killed and Shirley lost the method to leave Starry Sky Grotto Heaven, he knew the location of that Grotto Heaven loophole, as long as he can find that place, he could exert force and create a bigger hole, connecting to the outside world of Central Continent. Shirley immediately changed directions, but he realized that while the 5 flying bears were still charging towards him from the front, on the left, there were 3 blazing divine stallions getting closer. On the right, there was a huge ghost-faced tortoise, and behind him were 7-star desolate hounds. In just a short while, he was surrounded by desolate beasts on all sides. Shirley wanted to fly into the sky, but he looked up to see an iron crown eagle, a 9-palace crane, and a Chi grand lion, these 3 desolate beasts above him. Other than that, 7-star child immortal zombie was also ready to attack. 3 desolate beasts are nothing much, but this immortal zombie. The golden fur giant monkey's golden pupils shined with wariness. He lowered his head, looking around and deciding to break through from the right side. On his right, there was a ghost-faced tortoise. It was like the size of 3 mountains, floating in the sky silently. It was the largest in build and had the most difficulty in turning around. If 7-star child immortal zombie continued to attack, he could use the ghost-faced tortoise's huge body to act as a shield. Shirley made up his mind and took a huge step forward, charging towards the ghost-faced tortoise. He had transformed into the golden fur giant monkey. He was more than twice as large as Fong Yuan's 8-armed immortal zombie form. But in front of the ghost-faced tortoise, he was like a pearl in front of a wolf. The ghost-faced tortoise growled, as countless soul beasts emerged from the holes on its shell. The dark blue-colored soul beasts formed into an army, huge in numbers, filling the sky and charging towards the golden monkey like a torrential wave. Shirley fought against the flow and moved up, his fists sending all of the soul beasts in his way flying. His golden fur had great defense. Although the soul beasts were huge in numbers, they were slaughtered mercilessly. Shirley managed to use this soul beast army to avoid the entrapment of the desolate beasts. Only those 3 flying sword rats were still near him, causing small wounds from time to time. This immortal zombie seems to be unable to think. Even though he has strength, his beasts are hindering each other, and cannot display their true power. If it was me, I would have attacked long ago. Who cares about the lives of the soul beasts? Shirley had rich battle experience. After evading the ghost-faced tortoise, he had an idea and purposely slowed down. Under the encirclement of the soul beast army, he continued to move forward. The other beasts could only stand far away. Even 7-star child immortal zombie was staring blankly, as if he did not want to harm the soul beast army. Finally, Shirley came to the opening of the loophole of the grotto heaven. He let out a breath of turbid air. He was just about to relax before he winced, as blood poured out from his back. These 3 accursed rats! Shirley growled in anger. He turned around and raised his fist, sending the flying sword rats flying. The flying sword rats earlier could not cause much damage, but when damage accumulated, a small injury would grow into a large one. His back's injury was already filled with metal path Dao marks. The flying sword rats crashed onto the ground, but they quickly flew towards Shirley again. Shirley's eyes shone with a ruthless light. He activated an immortal killer move, Filthy Mud Robe. The 3 flying sword rats landed on the filthy mud robe and could not free themselves, like they were stuck in a swamp. Shirley used another move, Earth's Root. From the thick filthy mud robe, countless spikes shot out, stabbing and piercing the flying sword rats. Read latest. OV. LS at N. v/e/l/by.com. The flying sword rats held on for over a dozen breaths of time before their tiny bodies were pierced through by hundreds of spikes. They died at the scene. At this time, 7-star child immortal zombie finally reacted. He mobilized the soul beast army and ordered the desolate beasts to charge forward fearlessly. It is too late, fool. Shirley breathed in deeply. The sticky filthy mud robe on his body moved rapidly, detaching from his body and covering the grotto heaven opening. Shirley placed both his palms on the filthy mud robe, pouring a large amount of immortal essence into it. Immortal killer move, Earth disintegration. The filthy mud robe scattered and flowed out. The grotto heaven crack became a huge hole after this attack. Shirley could see another sky out of this huge hole. He laughed heartily, taking a huge step and forcing his way out. Because it was a forceful breakthrough and was not as meticulous as Star Lord Wanxiang's methods, during the process of leaving, a huge invisible force squeezed at Shirley's body from all directions. Thankfully, Shirley had become the golden fur giant monkey. His defenses rose by more than 10 times. He resisted the pressure and went through the hole. His body was covered in blood, especially the wound caused by the flying sword rats. his flesh was mushy and large amounts of blood was oozing out. Shirley sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain. He shouted in his heart, "Who dares to block my way? I am out of here. That accursed immortal zombie, I will definitely take you down. And for that Fang Yuan, the thief that stole my loot. A mere tiny rank 6 immortal zombie that doesn't know what is good for him, he dared to offend me. When I return, I will deal with you properly, and let you know the terrible fate for offending me." Thoughts flashed in Shirley's mind, but at this time, he heard the growls of flying bears near him. Shirley quickly looked around, seeing that 5 flying bears had gotten extremely close to him from 5 different directions. What is going on? He raised his head and looked, only to see 6 huge star shadows in the sky. Why am I still here? I had undoubtedly. Shirley was extremely shocked, his mouth was wide open. 7-star child immortal zombie looked at him as he laughed coldly. "Little monkey, did you think that my 7-star space is so simple? I do have to thank you. If you did not awaken me, I might still be stuck in that dream realm. As thanks, I will bury your corpse below my most beloved mountain peak." By now, 7-star child had actually regained his senses. He could think normally again. This is bad. Shirley's heart sank. 5 flying bears raised their paws, attacking the golden fur giant monkey. Scram! Shirley was just about to erupt, when starlight flickered around him, his body became heavier and his movement became slower. 7-star child immortal zombie had attacked. This was only a mortal killer move, but its effect was amazing. It was even more effective than the offensive immortal killer move earlier. At once, bear paws slammed down from all directions. Shirley shielded himself on his left and right, but he was unable to protect himself thoroughly. When he finally got rid of his restraint, he rolled and escaped from the 5 bears. But at this time, he was already dizzy from the beating, his muscles were swollen, becoming green and purple. Although he had no bone fractures, his body was aching intensely. After 7-star child regained his senses, his danger level escalated intensely. "I have no choice, I will have to seek help from the sect. Humph, to think that I, the grand immortal Monkey King, was forced to use Seek Help Gu at this moment. Where will my reputation go after this? Fang Yuan, this is all your fault. After I am saved, I will make sure you pay." Shirley shouted in his heart. He was going to puke blood from anger. Fang Yuan not only stole his loot, causing his trip to be an overall loss, he even took away Star Lord Wanxiang and trapped Shirley in this starry sky grotto heaven. Woof woof woof. 2-star desolate hounds traveled over, and the ghost-faced tortoise also floated ahead of him soundlessly. Immortal Monkey King raised his head, shouting at 7-star child immortal zombie, "Fight me for 300 more rounds if you have the guts." 7-star child immortal zombie laughed arrogantly, "Sure, come here." The golden fur giant monkey growled as sharp golden light burst out, forcing 7-star child immortal zombie to squint in response. After the golden light faded, Shirley regained his human form. He charged into the forest and sped away rapidly. The result was, he ran away. He ran away. The immortal Monkey King Shirley, famous for his bravery and ruthlessness in Central Continent, had chosen to escape. If this was known to the outside world, who knows how many of Central Continent's Gu immortals would gasp in shock. 7-star child immortal zombie was shocked for a while before reacting, responding angrily, "You dare to trick me? I thought you were a heroic champion who would rather battle to the death and would never give up. Escape, go ahead and run, I want to see where you can escape to in this grotto heaven of mine." Shirley did not say a word, he ran even faster. Chapter 728, Star Form Blessed Land. "We are here." Fang Yuan looked around him and gave a satisfied nod. "Where is this?" He Lu Lan came out of Fang Yuan's immortal aperture. The two had used fixed immortal travel to escape Starry Sky Grotto Heaven and arrive at this place. He Lu Lan looked around her and guessed this was either an underground cavern or inside a hollow mountain. The light was sparse, causing the place to be dark and gloomy. There were jagged rocks and the moisture in the air was very high, however it was quite spacious. "This place is Earth Abyss," Fong Yuan lightly replied. "Earth Abyss?" He Lu Lan looked at Fong Yuan with an astonished gaze. She was not unfamiliar with Central Continent, and knew that this Earth Abyss was located in the far west of Central Continent, and was an incomparably large underground world. Earth Abyss was divided into tens of layers, with every layer being at least hundreds of thousands of square kilometers in size. The space was extremely large and the underground world was deep and secluded. There were all sorts of caves and tunnels, some were like labyrinths, some had giant underground lakes while some had flat ground. Earth Abyss was home to untold number of living organisms. It was full of vitality, the unique ecology was clearly different from the surface. Truly a great place, the Earth Chi is dense in Earth Abyss and will greatly reduce the time for the blessed land to fall. Read latest. OV.com. He Lu Lan nodded, then changed the subject, but the main headquarters of Ancient Soul Sect is in Earth Abyss. Ancient Soul Sect is one of the 10 great ancient sects. It is like a colossal beast that has held dominance over the far west for thousands of years. They have occupied Earth Abyss and treat it as their own exclusive domain. If you want the blessed land to fall here, it is like planting flowers in another person's backyard. Aren't you afraid of being found? Fong Yuan laughed. Don't worry, the depths of Earth Abyss are extremely secluded. Ancient Soul Sect has spent thousands of years but has only explored no more than 18 layers fully, with some brief explorations up to the 27th layer. From the 28th to 36th layers, only Ancient Soul Sect's Gu immortals roam about occasionally. As long as we plant the blessed land below the 40th layer, we do not need to be concerned about being discovered even if we make a large commotion. 40th layer. I remember the exploration of Earth Abyss done by Ancient Soul Sect only found 36 layers. He Lu Lan was astonished. Fong Yuan snickered, that is because they are incompetent. The depth of Earth Abyss surpasses people's imaginations. How could it stop at 36 layers? As he said this, he recalled his previous life. In his previous life, when Fong Yuan was rank 5, endless beast tides emerged from Earth Abyss, attacking the surface and bringing disaster to Central Continent. Ancient Soul Sect suffered the brunt of their attack, suffering such disastrous losses that their foundation was damaged. After the beast tides charged out of Earth Abyss, they constantly drove out beast groups on Central Continent's surface and gradually formed into an unprecedented, terrifying beast tide that spread over the whole of Central Continent. In those years, there was great misery and suffering in Central Continent. Countless small sects were destroyed like stones in the path of a flood. The 10 great ancient sects organized groups of experts and rushed everywhere to destroy the beast tide. They spent several years before they were finally able to eradicate the beast tide from the surface. Afterwards, both righteous and demonic path Gu masters moved together inside Earth Abyss. Fong Yuan also entered Earth Abyss together with others and killed wild beasts, obtaining resources for his cultivation. They purged layers after layers, and entered deeper and deeper. After entering the 36th layer, Gu masters discovered a new passage. Further down was an even larger underground world with territories of countless beast groups, desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts. It was a land filled with dangers everywhere. Even when Fong Yuan had self-detonated, the exploration of the Earth Abyss had not finished. They had only discovered there were 107 layers. Ancient Soul Sect currently occupied 36 layers, which was just the portion that was closest to the surface. Fong Yuan naturally would not speak of these details to He Lu Lan, he only said, "Just follow me." He Lu Lan saw Fang Yuan's confident appearance and followed him deeper into Earth Abyss. The place they had appeared was the 8th layer. And as they moved down, they saw many of ancient soul sects' Gu masters. These Gu masters mostly were in groups, some were hunting wild beasts while some were gathering underground moss. The deeper they went, the fewer the number of Gu masters they saw, while the cultivations of the Gu masters increased correspondingly. From rank 2 Gu masters at the start to rank 3 to rank 4. How could these mortals have the ability to detect Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan's traces? Even if they brushed past some Gu masters in a narrow path, these mortals would not have been able to sense anything. When they reached the 30th layer, they no longer saw mortal Gu masters. It was a scene of darkness which greatly restricted vision, but fortunately, Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan were Gu immortals. They had all sorts of investigative Gu. At the 35th layer, one of ancient soul sect's rank 6 Gu immortals was being chased miserably by an ancient desolate beast and 4 desolate beasts. This Gu immortal had helped Fang Yuan. He and He Lu Lan were able to smoothly pass through the desolate beasts' camps and enter the 36th layer. Here, Fang Yuan walked to the key area according to his previous life's memory. After setting up 6 Gu formations, Fang Yuan pointed below his feet and said to He Lu Lan, "My attack power is not enough, it is better if you activate your immortal Gu and attack this muddy ground." He Lu Lan followed Fang Yuan's instruction. She transformed into a strength path phantom giant and punched heavily at the muddy ground 3 times. Mud and stone spattered, but could not splash out of the Gu formations. Thunderous sounds echoed, but outside the Gu formations, it was a scene of tranquil silence. The muddy ground was not completely smashed and only formed a crater that reached 70 to 80 feet. "Continue, quickly," Fang Yuan urged before jumping inside. He Lu Lan took a deep breath and jumped inside, punching rapidly. Under these continuous bombardments, the giant crater deepened further, and after thousands of feet, it finally broke open completely, forming a hole. Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan entered this hole to the 37th layer. He Lu Lan was covered with sweat. She raised her head and saw that the hole was rapidly being restored under the effect of the Gu formations. That was the thinnest area in the 36th layer. Even so, it was nearly 10,000 feet thick. Fang Yuan explained. "How did you discover this place?" He Lu Lan was filled with doubts. Fang Yuan snickered. Due to the Snowy Mountain Alliance, he could not lie but could choose to not speak. He Lu Lan saw Fang Yuan's silence and snorted, but did not pursue it. The 37th layer was filled with much more danger. After all, this place was completely in its raw state. Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan could be said to be among the first outsiders to explore it. When the two finally reached the 40th layer, the seal on Star Lord Wanxiang finally reached its time limit. "Your estimate was really accurate." He Lu Lan placed Star Lord Wanxiang's corpse on the ground and gazed at Fang Yuan deeply. At Fang Yuan's will, hundreds of mortal Gu flew out from Star Lord Wanxiang's body like a swarm of locusts. They buzzed as they flew into Fang Yuan's immortal aperture. Without the layer of suppression, Star Lord Wanxiang's body gradually let out bright starlight. The starlight became brighter and brighter. At the same time, the ground started to tremor. Several breaths later, vast amounts of earth chi emerged like layers of dust accumulating on the ground. The starlight stabilized. The piercing radiance was comparable to the sun during a summer afternoon. A formless suction force suddenly erupted which started to absorb the surrounding earth chi. Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan had already retreated far away from the starlight. "What is going on?" "It is an earthquake, another earthquake." "Leave, the earthquake this time is quite strong. If we don't leave now we might be buried alive." The Gu masters in Earth Abyss scurried off like rats. shouting in panic as they ran as fast as they could out of Earth Abyss. They did not feel this was strange. The structure of Earth Abyss was not stable and there would occasionally be earthquakes or collapse of places within. It was because of this as well that Ancient Soul Sect did not spend a lot of energy to carry out explorations, even though they were in control of this place. Large amounts of stones fell down from above. Even more dangerous were those sharp stalactites that could pierce through rank 3 defensive Gu if they struck. In fact, not only the Gu masters, the numerous living beings in Earth Abyss were also in misery. Many were crushed to death by the falling stones, while others were buried alive. To place the blessed land, Fang Yuan had brought about the death of at least 100,000 or more lives. After 5 minutes of time, the starlight slowly stopped absorbing earth chi, and formed a large square door. The large door was completely constructed from starlight and was hovering in the air. There was a plaque on top of the door where 4 words were written, Star Form Blessed Land. He Lu Lan let out a breath of cloudy air. We finally succeeded, it seems our luck is not bad. The commotion was huge, but it did not lead to an attack from the wild beasts in this place. Let's go. Fang Yuan took the lead and opened the starry entrance. He Lu Lan followed closely behind. The two entered Star Form Blessed Land. It was as if it was late at night in here. The sky was pitch black and filled with stars. The dazzling starlight shone on the ground of the blessed land, the visibility was high and it was not dark. The whole of Star Form Blessed Land's terrain was like a giant basin. In the center were upward sloping grounds while at the edge of the blessed land were continuous mountain ranges, as if forming a circular wall. So much star fragment grass. Fang Yuan looked at the ground. The grass underneath him here actually entirely consisted of star fragment grass. Star fragment grass clearly required to be planted on cloud soil, but this star fragment grass was directly planted on the black muddy ground, yet their growth was in a much better state than the ones Fang Yuan planted in Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Fang Yuan sighed with praise. This is the benefit of having a star path blessed land. Growing the related plants is not only easier, but also guarantees harvest. He Lu Lan's gaze was, however, attracted to the spine-fin star dragonfish that were leisurely flying in the night sky. She could only see 3 spine-fin star dragonfish. These giant dragonfish were about the size of a whale, but had the shape of a carp. There were bones protruding out of their backs that extended outwards. Their scales were blue in color, their eyes were as large as carps, with some starry radiance in them. However, under the keen observation of Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan, they quickly discovered some traces of battle. Not far away, large patches of plotted grass were in flames with black smoke rising up. The 3 spine-fin star dragonfish had injuries on their body. At the far end of their sight, those continuous mountain ranges also showed unnatural holes, like cheese that was nibbled at by rats. It seems that this Gu immortal had been in a fierce battle. Fang Yuan said. Right, if not for my main body being heavily injured by Song Zixing, suffering hidden injuries to both the physical body and soul, how could my grand main body, Star Lord Wanxiang, perish inside the 8th star hull? A boy suddenly appeared before Fang Yuan and He Lu Lan. His appearance was as if he was carved from jade. He was wearing pinkish-blue clothes wrapped around his chest and stomach, his small arms and legs were tender white like lotus roots. He was hovering in the air, his small cheeks puffing in anger. Chapter 729, Splitting Loot. Star Lord Wanxiang. It's him. Hearing the land spirit introduce himself, Fang Yuan revealed a flash of comprehension on his face. Land spirit, do you still remember me? Fang Yuan smiled lightly. I had bought star fragment grass and the killer move, spring star rain, from your main body previously. Star form child's gaze flickered, he reassessed Fang Yuan as his expression became more gentle. So it is you, I have some impression. Just the land spirit alone cannot take care of the entire blessed land, I wonder if you would like to seek refuge with one of us? Feng Yuan asked directly. He Lulan stood at the side, showing some nervousness on her face. She stared intently at Star-formed Child. Star-formed Child nodded his small head, showing some sadness, saying, "To protect this foundation, I will need the help of others. But I have my conditions." Although Star-formed Child was formed from Star-Lord Wan Xiang's lingering obsession, it had assimilated with the Blessed Land and was the representative of the Blessed Land's will. If he did not have the help of other Gu immortals, the Blessed Land would experience heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities again and again, until it perishes. Any life form had an instinct for survival, even land spirits were no exception. "Please speak." Feng Yuan quickly asked. Star-formed Child frowned, pouting as he said angrily, "The reason my main body died in the 8th Star Hall was because of Song Zixing. He caused a huge injury to my main body, forcing me to expose my secret and explore the Grotto Heaven with immortal Monkey King Shirley. If you want to become this blessed land's owner, you will need to bring me Song Zixing's head." Song Zixing's head. He Lulan heard this condition and laughed bitterly. Even though she was not a person from Central Continent, she had heard of Song Zixing's reputation. Song Zixing was a former disciple of Myriad Dragon Doc. After getting the Blood Sea inheritance, he refused to hand it over and chose to betray them. In order to exterminate him, Myriad Dragon Doc sent 8 Gu immortals in succession. 5 rank 6 and 3 rank 7, in the end, 4 were killed by Song Zixing, 3 were crippled and 1 was forced to retreat. Myriad Dragon Doc suffered a huge loss, and from then on, they did not dare to attack Song Zixing without preparation again. Phi. DD. EW upt. T. S on N, O, V/E/L. In.com. Song Zixing was now roaming around scot-free. He was one of the strongest experts among the demonic path in Central Continent. He had rank 7 cultivation and used the blood path, which was extremely powerful at fighting. People in Central Continent publicly recognized that Song Zixing's battle strength was about the same as Shirley, while being weaker than Feng Gu. That was because many years ago, Song Zixing had encountered Feng Gu and was forced to retreat after Feng Gu used 3 moves to utterly defeat him. "Alright, I will give it a try." Feng Yuan's expression was unchanged. He agreed. "You have to hurry, try your best. Star-formed Blessed Land's earthly calamity is coming soon. If I cannot get through it, the Blessed Land will be destroyed. It will be useless even if you meet the condition then." Star-formed Child urged. Feng Yuan's gaze shined. "If that is the case, I can help you resist the earthly calamity first." Star-formed Child shook his head like it was a rattle. "I will not allow any external Gu immortal to stay in Star-formed Blessed Land for more than 7 minutes. People's hearts are hard to read, only my master can help me to pass tribulation. Not long after, I will use Treasure Yellow Heaven to spread this information, and get more people to deal with that accursed Song Zixing." He Lulan's heart sank, but she had a deeply scheming heart. Her expression was still very calm. She thought about her words as she said, "Then you have to be careful, land spirit. People's hearts are hard to read. You might attract greedy wolves that would come and attack your blessed land directly." Star-formed Child laughed. "Don't worry, I am not stupid. I will not expose this location to them. Only those who meet my condition can enter Star-formed Blessed Land. Leave, and remember not to tell others the location of this blessed land." The land spirit was sending the guests out. Feng Yuan did not stay forcefully. He bid his farewell and left with He Lulan using the blessed land's entrance, back to Earth Abyss. The moment the 2 of them stepped into Earth Abyss, the door behind them vanished, completely disappearing. The blessed land was a small world, even though it was placed on the ground and took in Earth Chi. As long as the entrance was not open, it was very well hidden. Feng Yuan and He Lulan were silent. After getting rid of all their traces, they used fixed immortal travel and returned to Hu immortal blessed land. They were in a safe environment now. The first thing they did was to split the loot. This journey into Starry Sky Grotto Heaven was terrifying but harmless. We made a huge profit. I am regretting it slightly now. If I knew this, I would not have agreed to the 40% and 60% split. Hei Lu Lan sighed as she took the loot out of her immortal aperture. Why are there so many desolate beast corpses? This boar looks like an ancient desolate beast. There is a lion here, it is not dead yet. At once, little Hu Immortal's attention was attracted to the desolate beasts on the ground. Blazing divine stallion, flying bear, star demon bat, chestnut yak, a total of 7 desolate beast corpses and a yellow jade lion which was barely on the verge of death. Other than these, there was the astral wind flying heavenly boar, the corpse of an ancient desolate beast. There were also several hundred kilograms of diamond soil dug out from the diamond bear's cave. Finally, there were around 10 mysterious trees. These trees were part of a forest. When they had first entered Starry Sky Grotto Heaven, they trapped Fang Yuan and Hei Lu Lan. The two could not tell the origin of these trees and decided to take a few into her immortal aperture. Afterwards, a star desolate hound charged over and interrupted their collection process. The corpse of a desolate beast was worth approximately 40 immortal essence stones. Ancient desolate beast corpses were much more expensive. They were 10 times the price of desolate beasts' corpses, that was 400 immortal essence stones. Looking at this, it seemed that the price of an ancient desolate beast was unreasonably high. But the truth was, ancient desolate beasts were hard to kill. Not only was their battle strength equivalent to rank 7 Gu immortals, their bodies were covered in Dao marks. Mortal killer moves were ineffective on them. Even immortal killer moves were not very effective. Ordinary immortal killer moves used rank 6 immortal Gu as the core. When dealing with ancient desolate beasts, it was like using a dagger to stab an elephant. Although it had effect, the injuries had to be accumulated over a long period of time. Only immortal killer moves formed with rank 7 immortal Gu were an effective method to forcefully deal with ancient desolate beasts. Therefore, when immortal killer moves were involved, immortal essence would be expended. The cost of killing an ancient desolate beast would be much higher as a result. One often needed to expend several hundred green grape immortal essence beads or tens of red date immortal essence beads. As a result, the profit that they gained was usually only about 100 immortal essence stones. Although the profit of killing ancient desolate beasts was still much higher in terms of efficiency, 2 factors needed to be considered. First, there was great risk in fighting with ancient desolate beasts. Second, not any Gu immortal could deal with ancient desolate beasts. Ordinary rank 6 Gu immortals would choose to retreat or run away when faced with an ancient desolate beast. Only rank 7 Gu immortals like Shirley, an expert even among rank 7 Gu immortals, had the confidence to kill ancient desolate beasts. 7 desolate beast corpses are worth around 280 immortal essence stones. The nearly dead yellow jade lion, for now we can count that as around 80 immortal essence stones. The corpse of the astral wind flying heavenly boar is 400 immortal essence stones. Hundreds of kilograms of diamond soil is around 30 immortal essence stones. These mysterious trees are of an unknown origin, we will exclude them for now. All in all, the profit is 790 immortal essence stones. Hei Lu Lan calculated, the result made her a little tongue-tied. Almost 800 immortal essence stones. Undoubtedly, this was a huge fortune. Hei Lu Lan's breathing became faster. Ever since she became an immortal, she had been calculating her immortal essence stone expenditure piece by piece. Right now, there were almost 800 immortal essence stones right in front of her. Fang Yuan was in better shape than Hei Lu Lan. Using the unlimited inspiration of Wisdom Gu, he made many transactions with Xianxia land spirit and had tens of immortal essence stones on him as liquid currency. But even so, with 800 immortal essence stones in front of him, Fang Yuan sighed in his heart. Even in his previous life, he had no such experience. In the 500 years of his previous life, the highest amount of immortal essence stones he had on hand at a point in time was merely 60 or so. According to the 4-to-6 ratio, Fang Yuan could get 474 immortal essence stones. This huge profit was because we looted all of this without any battle, thus we expended no immortal essence. We merely picked them up for free. Fang Yuan calmed his mind and said, "Hee, that barbarian monkey is probably fuming now. Will he attack Hu immortal blessed land?" He Lulan asked with a bit of worry. After all, this was a huge sum. No. Fang Yuan shook his head. To us, this is a huge sum, but for a rank 7 Gu immortal like Shirley, he has at least several thousand immortal essence stones in his possession. Normally speaking, rank 6 Gu immortals could have several hundred immortal essence stones on them, while ordinary rank 7 Gu immortals would have thousands. Strength and wealth were in a reasonable ratio. Fang Yuan and He Lulan were newly advanced Gu immortals. They had just stepped into the world of Gu immortals. They were working with a whole new identity, starting from scratch, thus they were extremely poor. As for Fang Yuan lacking money in his previous life, one reason was because Blood Path was not good for the development of assets, it excelled in fighting. Secondly, because of the 5 regions' chaotic war, there were many fights and he had high expenditure during that period. Fang Yuan continued to analyze. Furthermore, Central Continent's 10 great ancient sects are righteous sects, and even compared to super forces in the other regions, they have a long history. These great sects have to abide by order and stability, they care about their face and reputation. Shirley will definitely want revenge on us, but he would not do it forcefully. He will use righteous methods to suppress us. After all, we are now a part of Immortal Crane sect. He Lulan nodded. She agreed with Fang Yuan's perspective. She showed some pity on her face. It is unfortunate that we did not obtain that walking meat tree. It is an ancient desolate plant, a thing of legend. It can be sold for a higher price than the astral wind flying heavenly boar. Fang Yuan said, "I do not believe so." At that time, compared to the walking meat tree, star-form blessed land was much more important. How will we split star-form blessed land? He Lulan looked at Fang Yuan, her expression turning serious. In front of a huge profit, she was not going to give up on it easily. These desolate beast and ancient desolate beast corpses were easy to split because their price could be evaluated. But star-form blessed land could not be easily assessed. Immortal essence stones could not express the true value of a blessed land. A blessed land was like a gold mine, it could produce resources endlessly. After swallowing it, it could even improve a Gu immortal's cultivation. It could be said that one's blessed land or grotto heaven was the Gu immortal's greatest achievement in their cultivation journey. Fang Yuan thought about it, before saying, "Star-form blessed land is not easy to split. How about this, we will compete for it fairly. Whoever fulfills the land spirit's condition first will obtain star-form blessed land. The other party has to accept the result without any compensation. Star-form blessed land is the result of our hard work. Only the two of us can compete in this contest. We cannot interfere with each other maliciously. Other than us, even if it was Fairy Li Shan or Tai Bai Yun Sheng who want to fight for star-form blessed land, we will work together and stop them. What do you think?" He Lulan's gaze flickered as she nodded. "That will be the best." Chapter 730, Giving You Qingpu Tea. Central Continent, by Qing Blessed Land. Bright sunlight shined down on this small world. The mountain stream flowed slowly, the tall ancient trees spread out their huge green leaves. Sunlight penetrated between the holes amongst the leaves. Because of the breeze, beams of light would sway gently when shining down on the ground. Feng Jin Huang was reclining on the grassy ground, her back against a tall tree. Feeling the wind, she breathed in deeply. The clear air was mixed in with the fragrance of the grass. The book of the Legends of Renzu was exquisite and beautiful. In the hands of Feng Jin Huang, she had already flipped it to the last few pages. Feng Jin Huang's eyes were clear as water, she stared at a page of the book without blinking. Although she had heard about the story of Renzu since her youth, due to her mystical experience in the dream realm, when she read the legends of Renzu again with deeper insight, Feng Jin Huang felt many new emotions emerging in her. At the end of the legends of Renzu, it said, Renzu's 10 children died one after another, even Renzu himself was going to die of old age, he was at the end of his life. Before dying, Renzu retrieved the corpses of his 10 children, and sacrificed himself, sending them all into Daoist Gu's stomach, eaten by it. Large amounts of dream realms also followed the smell of the delicious food, going into Daoist Gu's mouth along with them. Daoist Gu's stomach was burst open, as countless light of life shone on the lands, creating the first batch of mortals. Because the dream realm was involved in the derivation, the first batch of mortals would experience dreams when they slept at night. Humans often sink deep into dreams, like Northern Dark-Eye's soul, and are unable to free themselves from it. Feng Jin Huang thought as she stretched out her hand, closing the Legends of Renzu book as she stood up. Mother, send me back to the building. I am tired. She said softly. Okay. At the next moment, Feng Jin Huang heard Fairy Bai Qing's gentle voice echoing near her. Feng Jin Huang vanished on the spot, she reappeared in her own room inside the small building. In the room, Fairy Bai Qing was already waiting. Feng Jin Huang's eyes shone with joy. Oh, mother, why are you free today? Don't you need to blend in the earth chi? When a Gu master reaches rank 6 and becomes a Gu immortal, their aperture would take in the 3 chi of heaven, earth, and human, elevating it into an immortal aperture, forming a small world. Gu immortals manage their immortal apertures and increase their cultivation level. But the more objects that enter the immortal aperture, gradually, the heaven and earth chi inside the immortal aperture would become insufficient. Like a carefully nurtured bonsai, as the tree inside grows larger, the pot becomes too small, and the soil will seem very shallow. At this time, Gu immortals will place their blessed lands on the ground, taking in earth chi, or place their grotto heavens in the sky, taking in heaven chi. After taking in heaven and earth chi, they would stabilize their blessed land or grotto heaven, increasing the foundation of the immortal aperture. After their cultivation level stabilizes, they would be able to continue cultivating with a more stable foundation. Fairy Bai Qing's current condition was that she had managed the blessed land for quite some time, it was becoming unstable. She placed the blessed land on the ground, and she herself was inside, taking in the earth chi of the large region, central continent, and assimilating it into her blessed land. Fairy Bai Qing looked at her cute daughter with a doting gaze, praising, Huang heir, it seems that after this dream realm encounter, your mental state had been greatly trained. In the past, you would have complained to me and would request for me to accompany you. But this time, I blended in the earth chi for 3 days and 3 nights without spending any time with you, yet you actually read books and refined Gu quietly, your mental state is much more mature than before, mother is very happy. Of course. Feng Jin Huang smiled happily, showing her white teeth, she raised her head as the bells rang on her phoenix coronet, she said proudly, who am I? I am father and mother's flesh and blood, how can I ruin both of your reputations? Her smile infected Fairy Bai Qing as she smiled as well, ever since the first batch of mortals were born, they could dream. Almost nobody can avoid dreaming, after all these years, countless geniuses and talented individuals, even immortal venerables and demon venerables, they have their own dream realms. These dream realms gather together, forming a huge hidden realm of an unprecedented size. Huang heir, your dream wings immortal Gu can allow you to enter dream realms at will, it is a movement immortal Gu that prevents you from being influenced by dream realms. This is a huge opportunity for you, you need to make good use of it. I understand, mother. These recent days, I have been trying to refine Gu, I found out that my refinement path realm had reached quasi-master level. The advantages of the dream realm are simply too much, I had always lacked interest in refinement path, I had never practiced it normally. But after this dream realm journey, my attainment rose so sharply, I have exceeded many people in the sect. Feng Jin Huang sighed and said. You moved about in old immortal Kong Ju's dream, you unknowingly obtained some of his refinement path true meaning. But that was because old immortal Kong Ju himself was a refinement path supreme grandmaster, thus you had much to gain. Dream realms are extremely complex, you might not be so lucky next time, to encounter the dream of someone as qualified as old immortal Kong Ju. Fairy Bai Qing analyzed. Feng Jin Huang was nonchalant, she laughed, if I can't encounter it, then so be it. I do not have interest in refinement path anyway, next time, all I need to do is enter the dream of an immortal venerable or demon venerable. Sigh, it is a pity, I walk on the metal path, yet none of the 10 venerables cultivate this path. Fairy Bai Qing heart jumped when she heard this, she became serious, Huang heir, do not let your guard down. You were safe and sound this time because you were lucky, the dream realm you were in was not dangerous or harmful. If you really enter the dream of a venerable, you have to retreat immediately, the power of a venerable is not something you can imagine. Feng Jin Huang's first stuck out her tongue, before she replied obediently, yes mother, I understand. Fairy Bai Qing's expression became more gentle, she took out a letter Gu, this is a letter from your father, he has already broken through the regional wall, and has found a place to rest after entering northern plains. He has not learned of your awakening yet, but since he has already sent us a letter, we can use this letter Gu to reply to him, say a few words to him and relieve his worry, so that he can deal with the missions in this northern plains journey. Father's letter. Feng Jin Huang's eyes shined, she jumped over and took the letter Gu from Fairy Bai Qing, her consciousness entering it. But in the end, she could not read it. Feng Jin Huang pouted, oh, it is that information path immortal Gu, letter sending green bird, I am still immortal, I cannot read it. Fairy Bai Qing patted her head, your father is currently in northern plains, how can he cross the regional wall without using an information path immortal Gu? What are you anxious for, I had just praised you for becoming more mature. Saying this, Fairy Bai Qing injected a will into Feng Jin Huang's mind. Feng Jin Huang was familiar with this, countless thoughts generated in her mind as she conversed with the will, instantly, she could see the information in Feng Jiu Ji's letter. Father. Feng Jin Huang read Feng Jiu Ji's letter, and saw the concern and worry he had towards her, she was so moved her eyes turned red. I want to see father immediately and show him my current refinement path attainment. He had always been worrying about my refinement path realm. Feng Jin Huang muttered. Don't worry, I will tell your father in the letter. Don't tell him, I want to give father a surprise. All right. Fairy Bai Qing took out a letter Gu next, it was also a letter sending green bird Gu, but this was a rank 5 mortal Gu. This is another letter for you, it is from Feng Yuan. He had sent it long ago, take a look at it. Fairy Bai Qing said. Feng Yuan. Feng Jin Huang heard this name and gritted her teeth, her brows were sharp like swords, and her beautiful face turned red from embarrassment. She snatched the letter Gu and checked it. Feng Yuan had put in a lot of information in the letter, he first praised Spirit Affinity House extensively, his tone was like he wanted to join them, and he afterwards agreed with Feng Jin Huang's challenge, and he even apologized for replying so late. At the end of the letter, there was a line, I am currently in Hu immortal blessed land, my doors are open to await for Fairy Feng Jin Huang's visit. I have heard that Spirit Affinity House's Qingpu tea is extremely famous. If you intend to spar with me, I would get to experience the taste of this famous tea, that would be extremely enjoyable. Humph. He truly has the leisure time and mood, he wants to drink Qingpu tea. He wants to enjoy the taste of tea. Evil thief. Lecherous thief. I want to tear you into pieces and break up your bones to feed dogs. Feng Jin Huang's eyes were burning with fire, she exerted some strength unknowingly, and the letter-sending green bird Gu was chirping in response. Fairy Bai Qing quickly saved this letter Gu, Huang Er, this is something mother wants to talk to you about. Undoubtedly, Fang Yuan has exceeded our expectations once again, he is no longer like before. If you spar with him now you will only lose, there is no way to win. What? Feng Jin Huang stared with her eyes wide open, looking at Fairy Bai Qing in shock. Fairy Bai Qing told her about the details of Fang Yuan becoming an immortal zombie, and that he had a mysterious force behind him that managed to force Immortal Crane's sect to retreat after attacking Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Immortal zombie? He actually became an immortal zombie? Feng Jin Huang muttered to herself, if it was not her mother saying this, she would not believe it herself. How long has it been, he actually became an immortal already? We are about the same age, how can he have such firm foundations to charge towards Gu immortal realm? Feng Jin Huang was very perplexed. Fairy Bai Qing replied her, regarding his suddenly transformation into an immortal zombie, our 10 great ancient sects have some guesses. Although raising one's foundation is hard, it is not impossible. There is an example right in front of us, that is Dream Realms. Other than that, we have guessed that the mysterious force behind him might have some sort of special immortal ascension method, to allow a Gu master to become an immortal zombie. But becoming an immortal zombie means your cultivation level will stagnate, it can no longer progress. Feng Jin Huang frowned. That is the cast. But think about it, a rank 5 mortal Gu master compared to a rank 6 immortal zombie, the latter is obviously much stronger. Fairy Bai Qing said. Feng Jin Huang showed some disdain on her face, I don't care if he was greedy towards short-term profits, or that he was forced to do so, he will definitely not be my match in the future. He is rushing to challenge me now, it is obvious that he knows he can only continue to bully me during this period of time, in the future, it will be my turn. This coward is timid like a rat, he is a shameless and unscrupulous person. Huang Er, do not be blinded by your own hatred and anger. Fairy Bai Qing's expression was very solemn, this Fang Yuan is not simple, this letter that he sent was right before Immortal Crane's sect attacked, his real intention was to build a relationship with us, Spirit Affinity House, it was a tactic to bring in a third party. He has Dang Hun Mountain right now, and is making transactions with our 10 great ancient sections. His name has spread far and wide in Central Continent, almost every Gu immortal knows of his existence now. Mother, I was wrong, I was too agitated. Feng Jin Huang gritted her teeth, trying to regain her calm. How will you respond to this letter? Ignore it or reply to it, I will let you decide. Fairy Bai Qing purposely tested her. Feng Jin Huang said immediately, of course we will reply. Since this challenge was set by me, and he has already responded. If I avoid battle because he is an immortal zombie, then I would be showing weakness. But. Her eyes turned as she said, the enemy is strong while I am weak, only a fool will go head to head with him. Humph, soon, the Central Continent Refinement Path Convention is going to begin. I will use Refinement Path and defeat him in public. This will soothe some of my anger. Mother, what do you think of this? Fairy Bai Qing nodded in satisfaction, this is a good idea. Feng Jin Huang gritted her teeth, her eyes shined with bright light, in the following days, I am going to find Refinement Path Gu Master Dreams, and rapidly build up my foundation in Refinement Path. Using him as an opponent, it will urge me and promote the growth of my cultivation level. Fairy Bai Qing laughed, patting Feng Jin Huang's head, this is my good daughter. Read latest ch. Pictures at n/VELBI.co/m. Feng Jin Huang squinted, as she replied, she chuckled coldly, you want to pretend to be cultured and drink. Qingpu. Tea, sure, I will give you 50 or 60 jars of it. But if you want to compete, we cannot do so without a bet. I will make you lose in both reputation as well as substance.